kusisimua, mziki wa kata viungo na kindumbwendumbwe cha siasa au politics ukipenda. We are streaming live on Facebook from Kilimanjaro Studios outside Washington, D.C. We will shortly be going live on YouTube, so call your YouTube friends. And please remember to subscribe to both our YouTube and Facebook pages at The OneMic Show, and follow us on Instagram at OneMic Show. We're also taking live calls tonight at 202-683-4570 and press *5 to speak, so save that number. Now, later tonight in the social segment, we will be discussing the new mobile consular services that the Kenyan Embassy is now offering. Which states made the cut and what major cities were left out? We want you to keep it locked to find out. Na bila kusahau, tapokea mziki toka DJ wetu machachari mleta habari DJ OmoshFaya, na tutadunda kule viwanjani na Micah jezi yake nambari 7 mgongoni akituletea habari za michezo. Na moja kwa moja toka Kilimanjaro Studios ni mimi mtangazaji na mwanahabari wako mpendwa Ali Badawy. Kwetu wananiita mteule na wengine mniite mjukuu wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui na sibagui. Karibuni.
Now, let's talk politics.
Now, this hour we're going to be speaking to cinematographer Albert Nyakundi regarding the ongoing demos in Kenya. We'll talk about the raid on President Uhuru's Northland farm, the burning of a mosque and church in Kibra, and if Kenyans in the diaspora could unknowingly be fueling flames of discord. So I want you to stay tuned for that and more. And I'm your co-host and producer, Ali Badawy. It's Friday, the 31st of March, and we are coming to you live from Kilimanjaro Studios outside Washington, D.C. Now, please remember to subscribe to our OneMic Show YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at OneMic Show. On panel with me is Mr. Micah on the boards. Sports anchor Micah will be joining us via Zoom, and our resident DJ OmoshFaya is live on the decks. And also not forgetting super producer Mubelwa Bandio. Now, before we get started tonight, I just have a quick announcement from the Kenyan Embassy in D.C. And this is an announcement following public pressure by diaspora Kenyans. The Kenyan Embassy in the U.S. has started offering mobile consular services. In an exercise that kicked off yesterday, the 30th of March, the mobile unit is scheduled to be in various cities across the U.S. as follows, so please pay attention to this. From yesterday, which was the 30th of March to April 1st, the mobile consular service unit is in Chicago, Illinois, and Seattle, Washington. And then from the 3rd to the 5th of April, they'll be in Columbus, Ohio, and Minneapolis, Minnesota. From April the 7th to the 9th, they will be in Atlanta, Georgia, and Des Moines, Iowa. And then from April 11th to the 13th, they will be in Orlando, Florida, and Kansas City, Kansas. And then from April the 15th to 17th, they will be in Phoenix, Arizona. And lastly, from April 19th to 21st, they will be in Kenya's capital in the U.S., and that's Dallas, Texas. Now, for those who want details on registration, venues, and timing, please visit kenyaembassydc.org. And please note that registration is required and walk-ins will not be accepted. Also note that the mobile services that had been scheduled for 5 provinces in Canada have indefinitely been cancelled till further notice. You can visit kenyahighcommission.ca for updates on when the mobile unit will be in Canada. Also, unconfirmed reports indicate that the mobile unit may also be headed to Havana, Cuba, and Brasilia in Brazil. So stay tuned to the OneMic Show for more updates. I want to welcome all the listeners. Leo Dwar karibu sana. Tucha karibu sana. Sambaza Podcast karibu sana. We are happy to have you. And let me first get to the panel real quick before we go to our guests.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Mike, what do you think about these mobile units? They're actually in effect right now as we speak.
You know, it's important. I think it's very good to alleviate the problem of people having to come in here at odd hours.
Okay.
And fly in, spend a lot of money, and probably not even get service, or spend a lot of money and maybe the service maybe subpar or something happens.
Okay.
But I think it is a good thing to take these services to the people. It would be nice if they could take them to their bedroom. But of course, I'm sure we're going to get some people who are going to be
there'll always be people who
will always be like, can they guys come to my county or whatever? No. At this juncture, what we have, let's make it work, because they've already given us a list a listing of where you'll be if you're close by.
Yeah.
Ni kama watu wa Maryland DMV hapa.
Mm.
The embassy is right here. But some people take forever to even go there.
Yes.
And they will
that's
still
right.
complain. And
That's
they are drive away.
Like right now, people in Houston, Texas are complaining because they feel there's significant population and they have to drive all the way to Dallas. I think a 4-5 hour drive.
It's 3
and-
hours. I
Yes, or 3
Or
hours,
Houston.
depending on how you drive.
Yes.
But those complaints are coming. DJ OmoshFaya, karibu sana. Now, no more relatives coming with an excuse of you're going to the embassy to renew the passport.
Are you saying we won't get those phone calls we normally get so that we can go to the embassy and pick up their stuff and put in a barua and send to them?
No more, because now there's mobile units. Now, this is a pilot program. We don't know whether it's gonna be in the month of April. We still don't know how frequently it's gonna be or if it's gonna be shelved after the pilot. We so far
So-
don't know.
So do we know exactly what the services entail? Meaning, are they doing biometrics?
They're doing biometrics, they're doing ID services, and I think all the details are actually on the Kenyan Embassy website, kenyaembassydc.org. That would be the best place to go. And they actually have details on the different venues that they will be, the different venues where they will be performing this in the different states. And kudos to the churches, because a lot of churches came out, because you notice that most of those venues that come up are churches. So a lot of churches came out to support,
give a
this
space,
effort. Yes, to
basically.
give a space. You know, regardless of
Or
whether they're
host.
volunteering
Yeah.
or whether they're getting paid for it, but they've offered, you know, like an affordable space where the embassy can go and serve its people. So that's a good thing.
Wow. This is a huge step. You know, this is I almost I'll put this in the same realm as the ability to register to vote.
Yes.
That we got.
Mm-hmm.
And as you say, it's a pilot program. And with these things, it's basically a numbers game. If people don't show, then that means there is no need, regardless of how much notice folks were given or how far away it is. So if I'm someone from Houston, I would do the drive. If you have consular services or things that you need to put into place, as opposed to having to get on a plane and fly somewhere within the U.S., you know, pick any one of the three, whether it's New York, D.C., or Cali.
Okay.
So, you know, so wherever they're bringing it, please, Kenyans, take the jump. As guys, we are lucky. We can hop, step, and jump. We can help our lunchtime and go to the embassy, do what we need to do, and come back to work. A lot of people can't do that, you know, and we've seen it in action, even with the registration. How we saw people who came and registered from Georgia, who then came back again and voted, you know, and turned around and went back to work same day. So it's all about you looking at the big picture, because alternatively, you'll be spending a lot of money, especially if you're a family. Just think of it that way. If you're like, you know, husband, wife, and 3 kids, or you want to register your kids, this is a chance to take advantage. If I were you, I would do this, especially because biometric services are coming to you.
Yeah.
So that whole coming in the bedroom or getting a vendor somewhere until those things get passed, which in all honesty, based upon how Kenya works, I don't see that being passed within this presidency. What do I know?
Okay, and Jerry Wawamboy, karibu sana. And Jerry is asking, are they renewing passports? Yes, I think passports are being renewed, but you have to register.
Register first.
Yeah,
Yeah, go to a website, register, and make sure you carry your documents originals. Originals. And
Yes.
to the point where they're telling you, especially with people who have to do like, you know, passport renewal and things like that, sometimes, and I'm not sure if they still do this, because there was a difference between a lady and a guy in terms of what documents were needed. And in some cases, they used to need attestations from a male family member and or or clergy or something like that. So I'm not sure if that's still, you know, in effect. But for ladies, I would tell you, please check and, you know, find out what it is that you need. Make sure you carry the originals. And if you need to get an attestation from somebody who, you know, make sure you carry the original ID and you don't have a photocopy of the ID.
Okay, so in short, just make sure you read the instructions before you go. You have to register first. You know, like you can't do a walk-in, you know, so don't go there doing a walk-in and you know, like pretend that you didn't know. So just make sure you have all your documents together And poleni to watu wa Canada, I'm not sure why like the Canadian leg was cancelled, and I'm so glad that I was going to check something on the Canadian embassy, and that's when I noticed that it had been cancelled. It was cancelled last minute on March the 29th, which was just 2 days ago. And I think at some point they will bring it back. There was also talk of going to Havana, Cuba. I didn't even know that there's a significant population of Kenyans there, and Brasilia in Brazil.
Brazil, yes.
So I think,
I
people
thought there was another country as
people
well.
also going to be getting their biometrics at is it called Copacabana Beach? Yes, right there. People might be getting their biometrics there.
That may be a different place.
Yes.
I don't know. What do I know?
Yes, but this is a good move. It's a good step.
It's Mexico, bro.
Yes, it's a good move. It's a good step, and we look forward to how far this is gonna go. We're starting to see some things.
You remember when we had the lady from IEBC over here before they did the registration, a few days before they actually launched for people to come and register, and they talked about having to have in order for, like, for example, if you're gonna renew your passport or whatever, it has to be on Kenyan soil.
Yes.
In quotes. So I'm thinking probably this has been.
No, that Kenyan.
No, that was the Kenyan soil was for
that
the voters.
That
for
Kenyan
the voters
soil
card.
argument, like, not to demean what they said, but it's a bogus argument.
No, because remember, there's a time
it's a very bogus argument.
Even trying to renew your passport, it's like people had to come to the Kenyan embassy.
Yeah.
Passport.
No, it's a bogus argument.
I think it was an immigration officer that they needed. Or
IBC don't work with immigration officers. The IBC, like, they were looking for excuses for not doing what they were supposed to do. It was a very bogus argument. We unfortunately could not, because we are professionals, and like, the IBC officials were kind enough to come here. But like, it was indeed a bogus argument, and we've talked to legal experts, and they've confirmed that there is no such thing that the IBC is restricted to register people
on Kenyan soil
within an embassy. That Kenyan soil thing,
which makes embassy, whatever.
That's something they invented.
Okay.
That they invented.
So
it's
you're saying
the
that's
law.
their interpretation of.
No, it's not even an interpretation. It's an invention, because it's not in the law. It's not in the Constitution.
In amendments or
it's
whatever?
within what they call their own personal regulations. Because
they're allowed to.
Yes, you have to use the laws to have your own regulations. So that's something they came up with, and and of course, all
like
legal experts.
To me.
It's the same thing. They were also saying. Remember, also in the interpretation, they're like, you cannot use your ID
yes,
when
and
you're
they had to
abroad.
go to court.
And then it was quashed in the court, like, and those are the small things that I was telling IBC. They need to show goodwill by not, like, coming up with these little excuses for not doing things, because when they come up with those excuses, to us, it shows bad will. And I want to remind the listeners that you tuned into the OneMic show, and I'm your co-host and producer, Ali Badawy. We are talking about mobile consular services and that are now being offered by the Kenyan Embassy. We'll continue with this conversation later in the social hour. So we want you to stay tuned for that. Now, I want to go back to Kenya, where we know that in the past few days, Kenya has been characterized by demos and counter-demos from factions allied to both the ruling Kenya Kwanza coalition and the opposing Azimio coalition. Now, the protests have so far witnessed the death of a student, and dozens of injuries have been reported in the hands of police. And also hundreds of people have been arrested following a protest ban by the government. In Kibra constituency, there was a battle between Luos and Nubians that ended up in houses of worship being torched. And even more notably, former President Uhuru Kenyatta's farm at Northlands was raided and burned by people estimated to be in the thousands, who stole livestock and subdivided the land using mabati sheets. Now, to help us get perspective from Kenya is a cinematographer, Albert Nyakundi. Now, Albo also happens to be the OneMic show's video editor, and he has been traveling between Nairobi and other parts of Kenya during these protests. Now, Albo has previously admitted that he's not necessarily pro Maandamano, but he will be giving us a perspective from the ground. And I want to say, Albo, karibu sana to the OneMic show. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Now, Albo, where are you currently located, and are you safe? Are you okay? Because from some of the things that we've been seeing, like Nikubai, uko wapi right now?
I got back home today, so
So where is home? For those who are listening and don't know where you're located, they're just seeing your nice computer back there. Where is home and where had you been?
I live in Mlolongo. Just
Okay.
it's just past the airport up Nairobi.
Okay.
It's the new place for young single men like myself.
Bachelors.
To live.
Okay.
What to a bypass?
Eh?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And where had you gone? Because you said you came back home today. So where had you previously gone?
Yes. Yeah, I'd gone for a shoot at my former school, Maseno.
Okay.
For just past Kisumu, but it's like in Kisumu County, but past the town. Yeah.
Now, how was your trip? Because I know you were initially in Nairobi and then you made your trip to Uko Maseno, and there was issues also going on there. Just describe to us how your trip was. Was it just kawaida? Did you meet some Maandamanos along the way? Talk to us about that.
Were you asked for ID?
Yeah. Now, okay, I left on Wednesday night. I traveled on Wednesday night because I wanted to pass. There was, of course, the news that there was going to be Maandamano. Kisumu, of course, being a stronghold, it was going to be a hotspot and whatnot. So I left on Wednesday night. I got to Maseno that like 2 in the morning or something, slept over. But now in the morning, I had to go pick a crew member from Kisumu. Now, I left pretty early. I think it was like 7 or something like that. So when I got, there were some delays when I got to Kisumu to get the guy. But now, in staying 2 hours in Kisumu, now, after a while, because I was trying to get where this guy was, but I didn't know, like deep within Kisumu, the Maandamano that kind of started, that blocked off all entry roads into Kisumu. Now, my position was that I was to go back now, get my guy, go back to Maseno. Now, as we were trying to go back now, because when he came, it was about 3 hours late or something. So he had issues getting to where I was because we were meeting kind of on some place called Kisia, and it's near the airport.
Yeah.
Now, but to meet there, then he was to come there with a border, then I take him on because you couldn't enter with cars. But we didn't realize that now where I'd come from, now the roadblocks had been set up by protesters.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. So, I think I counted about 7 roadblocks between where we were and Maseno, this school. So, what happened that while this was happening, when I was picking up the guy, I didn't know it was happening behind me. But now, once we started going back, almost immediately we realized that there was an issue. But I didn't know exactly what they were about, so I decided just go. When I got to the first barricade, I'd used stones, the normal tires, whatnot. The youths came, and then it was quite clear they just wanted money. There was no other stories. Well, they would come out like, you are not tuendeshi gari, it's all talk, but in the end it was money. So I thought, okay, this is fine. I would maybe 100 bob, that's equivalent of like $1. It's less now, much less, but for argument's sake. So 100 bob would get you through one barricade, but immediately about 20 to 50 meters away, they would put another one. So this is like an entrance, and then there's an exit. So you have to pay on both ends. So that was the first one. We passed that one. It was pretty uneventful. But now on the second one, we spent about 3 hours there.
Huh?
Because now what happened is that there were guys who were trying to get across. There were a number of cars. But then some guys didn't want to pay. So it was very simple. If you didn't pay, you didn't pass. And then it became, because some guys were like, you have a phone, like whatever phone, they'll take the phone from you. So guys are also getting afraid of getting, trying to use the phone or whatnot. So they would, if you didn't have like cash, you would be forced now, because the issue was, if you didn't have cash, you had to go look for an M-Pesa to withdraw, break up the money, then give them, then pass.
From the
So
roadblock.
it go, yes, now on the second one.
And all this time there's no police officers where you're saying youths are manning like 7 roadblocks. All this stretch,
No.
there's no police.
No, whatsoever. I saw the police way out, like it's not even near they kind of had let it go on, it burns out, then that's it. So because there are no police, personally, we passed through the 7, there was not one police. You could tell it was just the youths of around the place, wherever the roadblock was.
And this is a drive that's normally about 35-40 minutes, right?
Slightly less.
Yeah.
30 minutes mark.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, but now I was there, I think in total that journey took about 5 hours.
Okay, all right. So this is quite something, and this is the reason why we wanted to get a perspective from someone who's in Kenya. We have some audience members here who don't seem to like your jersey. I don't know why. I think it's a very nice looking jersey.
The jersey of champions. The jersey of champions.
Yes, so bear with some of our audience members.
For some of those audience members,
yeah,
we can give them 7 reasons.
Yes.
7 reasons why that jersey should be worn.
Okay.
Wanajijua, ni aje slip.
Okay, sawa.
Carry on.
Na hiyo hapo ni gold ya kweli hiyo hapo. Is that championship gold?
Mame.
What?
Hiyo umevaa hapo. There's gold.
It's brass.
I'm seeing gold on
It's
you.
brass. It's brass.
Is it championship gold?
Brass bwana. Hatujafika bali ya gold.
Kwa hii kamera inakaa gold. Hiyo Alma youth hapo, the ones who are stopping you, if they saw that, they would have taken
but
it
that
thinking
one
it's gold.
represents the career, the unbeaten season.
Actually, we didn't have anything like you don't wear anything to look like it can be money.
Okay.
Basically, you are down to the basics. I remember I hid my phone under the car seat, the front car seat, mute and everything.
Wow.
So
this is so scary. This is so
So
scary.
there was no negotiating in Luo or in other languages except money.
No, this is the thing. It would get very tricky if you didn't know Luo.
Wow. Okay.
Because now the guy I was with is a Luo, so he was
spokesman.
In fact, let me just say he made things
Easy.
10 times easier, because I remember there was 1 or 3 there. I think the other disagreement eventually, but the conductor was a Mkisi.
Oh.
So there was a disagreement. They could not Mkisi, whatever, but eventually passed. But I think it's the only vehicle I saw who's the one of the back window was broken when they were driving away. So
okay.
And did that happen at that place, or it happened elsewhere? The broken window.
No, at the second place where we took a long time. That's part of the reason we stayed for so long there. The incidents.
Understood.
And you know that you're trying to calm these guys down because they would do anything.
You also want to pass.
Time.
Yes,
so,
you also want to pass, and you want to make sure that they're not agitated.
Okay, all right. And Stephen Stephen Batty says this sounds like a militia stronghold. This sounds like a militia stronghold issues. This can be very detrimental if they keep doing this. And then, I see Slay here says, sadly, this is not the first time this thing for you have to speak Luo has happened. It's very terrible. And it's also quite scary, and this is where we have to try to figure out where we want our country to go, because this is very scary. Like from here in the diaspora, we are still trying to get a perspective and understand what's going on, and that's why we are talking to someone who's actually in Kenya, because there's a lot of people here in the diaspora who wanted to come to studio, and talk about what's going on. But the reality is that we are here and we're getting media reports and we don't know, what's going on. The other quick thing, Albo, I wanted to ask you is there's some clips that we've been seeing circulating, and I don't know whether they are legit clips or whether they're older clips or wherever they're coming from. It's showing youth, marauding youth, going around what looks like streets, maybe either in Nairobi or maybe the environs of Nairobi. I'm not sure exactly where, just stopping and mugging everyone. And they're in very, very big groups. And they look like they're moving through what looks like a fairly middle-class kind of neighborhood.
Or the estate.
Or the estates, yeah.
Okay.
Is this what's happening in Nairobi, or are those clips from somewhere else? Albo.
Now, I think there's a mixture of those, because there's some that actually, because that happens a lot sometimes when you have this protests or whatever, because I think we are all aware that it gets to be like a mugging fest very quickly for it, because it's opportunistic at this time, because nobody, if you really like the affluent areas, the Kilimanis, the whatnot, even Adams, there isn't much going on in terms of protests. There are very specific areas that have stuff going on, the Madares, and obviously, the low income areas are usually prone to that, because in my estimation, it's because there are a lot of people with no jobs, or at least something they wouldn't consider too important, to take the day off and whatnot. So some of those clips, they're legit, because if you get yourself in the middle of those youths, they don't care. It's not about we are protesting for whatever cost of living or whatnot. That's why, for me, I think that's why my sentiments earlier about being against it was that was my stand earlier. It's because eventually this is what it turns out to be. It's no longer about the political matter, and I think that's why I thought it's a dead end. It's just given a lot of frustrated people opportunities to hurt other people. The politicians are nowhere to be seen, but that's what's happening. So it's just best, because the police, GSU, whatnot, they cordoned off the CBD. So there was nothing going on. Last week I was in CBD. We had an empty streets. Like it was worse than Sunday. Like there was no one. So they've locked that out. So the places where those things are happening, and also places, there are spots in Ngong Road or Thika Road, or where if Thika Road near Madare, you wouldn't just pass. So there are those little spots that have those. I don't know if I would call them little, because they have the most population, but
Okay.
that's where it's happening.
Okay, and I think, it's important also to interrogate some of the end goals of the Maandamano, and if it's justified, and you've already started talking about that, and at this point, I'm gonna be lining up a clip from some of our listeners here, in as far as some questions they have, just based on being out here in the diaspora and being curious about what's going on, back home in Nairobi, in the different parts of Kenya. So I'm gonna start playing one of the first clips that we have here, and then we're gonna address the question that's being asked here. All right, let me go ahead.
This is Slay, and I'm from Texas. My question is, do you think we as Kenyans have an understanding of peaceful demonstration? The reason I ask is because when we have been called upon to participate in peaceful demonstrations, we have had instances of violence and chaos. So I'd like to know, do you think we understand what it is to peacefully demonstrate?
Okay, very good question. Do you think we understand what it is to peacefully demonstrate? That's coming from Slay.
Yeah. Well, in a nutshell, I think we do, but how we want to, I don't think we want to apply it that way. I think the intentions from the, because I'm trying to see how long can this go? How long can you lock out 2 days in a week where people are not working? 2 days out of 5, really, where people work. The amount, because most of us are not like established where we can take losses for months or days. That's why I feel it's a dead end. The intention of this protest is not, I don't think they are particular to the issues. I think it's more about another political tussle between Raila and Ruto. And this is just a gimmick, in my opinion. And I don't also, in as much as we've had so many protests before, we understand what they are for, but a lot of the times they don't actually achieve the roles, what do you call them, what they're expected goals to achieve at that time. Sorry?
They don't achieve the intended goals. Okay.
Yes, because a lot of people say, yes, Maandamano did ABCD, but if you have to look at it critically, a lot of those Maandamanos were actually engineered by the same politicians that, that are there. Even Ruto was in some back in the day, when there was the revolt against Moi and the orange people, DM at the time and whatnot. All these people are, so all these protests, in my estimation, are not, I think in other places they can be better organized and the goals are easily more achievable, because if, for example, you're not going to work, for Kenyans, that's a difficult task. That's something difficult to expect people not to go work, especially since you know how the economy is now. Things are really, really thick. I don't think people understand. People are putting up a brave face, but and that's why I think also, most people have, if you look at all the clips, most people have their perception that this thing is going on everywhere and whatnot. It's happening in certain places. If you look at the Kisumu, Nyanza area, Siaya, whatnot, they would happen. But even outside Kisumu per se, it's not so big because the cost is too high for us. And while in some instances this would work, I don't think it's actually planned well. I don't think they have an end goal to this. I think, in my estimation, while I've been a Raila guy for a while, before, I think this is his attempt at staying relevant. I don't think that these protests are for anyone other than himself. And that's why I'm really against them, because I don't think the intended purpose, the intended purpose, the intended purpose, I don't think it's to fight for the rights or whatever, justice or any kind of truth. I think it's a political gimmick, and that's why it's not going to achieve anything, because it doesn't look, what's the goal?
Okay.
How long are people not going to open businesses for 2 days a week? Personally, that's one of my biggest problems.
Okay.
Like, he doesn't care that with small businesses, we are suffering. If you look out Nairobi City, the town center, that's where most of our business comes from.
Okay,
I don't know what you're planning. I don't know anything about what you are. What's the end goal? Are you going to achieve it? What's the probability of that? There's no information on the important things.
Now, this is
why.
This is a very good point that Albo brings up, and of course, like some of us disagree with him on issues Maandamano. But I think it's a very good point in as far as communicating, like what's the end goal, what's the intended purpose, and what are we going to be doing from now until the intended purpose is reached. Let's also listen to another comment that came from another listener question. Let's go ahead and listen, and we'll be right back.
Question is, do you think the outcome of these mapambanos will lead to another Nusu Mkate type of government where Baba and Ruto share the spoils of the government that is in place right now.
Okay, all right. So that's another question that was coming from Sambaza podcast all the way from Texas. Albo, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, at least that's the prevailing narrative that he is Raila is angry for Nusumukate. I can't say I have evidence to suggest that's the case, because even with that, I don't know. It's what people are saying, but from the Raila camp, at least there doesn't seem to be a lot of push for that particularly. But I think you can deduce from the actions that he wants a lot more say in the government, and that's why I was saying it's his attempt at staying relevant. He wants more say in the government, but unfortunately for him, this has happened way too many times. It doesn't matter whether his claims to what has happened are true or not. It gets very tiresome very quickly, and we don't have the assurances that he's actually doing something for us. So as far as I'm concerned, that could be the case. I don't particularly think it's so. I think he's gotten to a point where he wants everything. He wants to be the president. I don't think it's going to happen. It's quite clear that the demands, for example, he's talking about opening the servers again and recount, and that's not going to happen. Okay. I think it's for people who actually care about results of anything. We know where this ends. This is noise for the next 4 years, a non-stop campaign. If this doesn't work, you try something else and whatnot. Unfortunately, when you've been Raila supporter for as long as I have, you know exactly what's coming, because he hasn't changed that. And unfortunately, he seems to do his best work when he's lost.
Okay, so. All right. Those are Albo's opinions. And to a lot of the people who are saying that the OneMic show is biased. We don't let people who are this side or that side come. So so these are his opinions, and I agree with a portion of them, maybe a small portion of them. And like we do it here on the OneMic show, we take positions, we reveal that we are sometimes very, very honest, if we see things this way or that way. The way I see it, from my own objective perspective, I don't think Raila, is looking for Nusumkate. And I think part of the problem is also when Raila is friendly with the government, people complain. And then when he's antagonistic against the government, people also complain. So there's nowhere where he can be. And if he goes away and keeps quiet, people also complain.
They still complain.
Damned if he doesn't.
Yes.
Damned if he does.
So he's in a very tricky situation in as far as, regardless of what he does, he's still going to get criticism. I honestly think he's looking, or rather the Azimio group is looking to push, to repackage BBI and push it out again, in as far as especially getting say in the picking of the IBC commissioners, which was an issue in the last election. I think that's going to be a big deal, and the whole other raft of issues that came up during BBI that were thrown by the courts due to the technicality of the fact that the court said that it had to come, all those issues had to come separately, and you cannot bundle them in one. So I think that's part of, what might happen. And then there's the issue of electoral justice. Some people are saying, yes, of course, Raila is claiming that, he won the election. And there's question also that have been brought up by some of our listeners regarding this. But overall, I'm looking at it from a perspective of electoral justice in as far as elections are concerned, because there's always issues after every election. We've had the Supreme Court, like declare an election null and void. So these are just some of the things that are coming up. And I can see some comments here coming from Louis Muya. He says, I'm against this Nusumkate concept. Let opposition play its role. Opposition can't play its role if it is in government. And let me quickly comment about this thing about the opposition. One of the things that I feel that did not work well with the new constitution that we got rid of that was working well is the Westminster model of having, like someone who's officially recognized as a leader of the official opposition and comes in tow with what's called a shadow cabinet. Like what happens in the UK. Like the party that's in the opposition, they have their cabinet secretaries, shadow cabinet secretaries on all the ministries. So there's a very streamlined way of challenging the government, and even responses, how responses come, like from the opposition. If it's an issue about tourism, if it's an issue about finance, there's specific people who are handled to task that. I think that was something that we got rid of that was working well at that particular time. And I think this is one of the issues that's being talked about. But I'll agree with Albo. There needs to be better communication to the masses on what the goal is, because I think there are these bullet points that are sometimes given to the public, and there's no proper communication on what exactly is supposed to happen. Let me bring this back to the panel in the studio so that I can just hear from. Let me start with you, Uno.
Me, and I asked you this. I mean, okay, first question I would ask is, what is the role of Parliament? I know Senate, kazi yao ni oversight in Kenya, right?
No, Parliament is oversight, is legislation, oversight, and representation. That's both
legislation.
That's both the House and the Senate, both of them.
So, what would Parliament do, or what position would they be in to, let's say, for example, for lack of a better word, because I'm trying to see if I can understand what can they legislate on what's going on, because people are part of the reason for the Maandamano is what? Cost of living, right?
We are not short. We are not short of legislation. Like unfortunately, in fact, Kenya is one of the most legislated, if that's the right word, is one of the most legislated countries, and we have very good laws. We have very good laws in the books.
So let's say, for example, because guys are complaining about what? Cost of living.
Yes.
Guys are complaining about, electricity bills, unga, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So who in the body in Kenya, which system would actually try and, let's say, table a measure to try and see what they can do to either alleviate, cut, stuff like that?
So you can't legislate away.
Not legislate, but I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you put something.
You're asking for the role of Parliament.
Yes, the role of Parliament.
Yes. And I think what we are suffering from is a deficit of good leadership. Good leadership cannot be substituted by good laws, by a good constitution. There's no substitute to that. And that's something that I think we are severely lacking. When you compare this to the older parliaments, like the parliaments back to when Kibaki was president, you had, like members of parliament, you had people who could stand up and speak and challenge and even come out to, try to bring solutions to problems that the country was facing. Okay, let me
put it this way. Let me use a different career. Maybe you'll see where I'm coming from. Uhuru Kenyatta some time back signed I'm going to call it the marriage bill, whatever it was, the bill, where customary marriage, there was religious marriage, and there was stuff. It was sort of a clear demarcation of what is what and what is going to be law moving forward, right? Who or how was this? How did it get to his? How did it get to his desk? What was the process? Because was it something that was tabled in Parliament, and then it was debated, it was agreed upon, and then it was sent to his desk and he signed? I'm assuming that's what happened.
So laws can either come directly from members of Parliament,
yes,
or sometimes they could come from ministries and they give it to parliament and they suggest that we want this law passed, or sometimes they could come directly from State House, and that's normal practice even here in the US. You know, like Biden may give his suggestions on what he wants,
presidential directive
to Congress. It's not really a directive because parliament and Congress are independent bodies, but they give, you know, like suggestions, you know, like, and they even write, you know, like some of those bills. So I'm not sure exactly who wrote that marriage one, but typically, you know, like this can come from, they can come directly from members, or they can come from the different government agencies that you see, especially whenever they're looking to achieve something. They negotiate with parliament, they negotiate with parliamentarians that this is what we want.
The reason I'm asking is this.
Yeah.
So Uhuru Kenyatta gets a bill.
Yeah.
On his desk and he signs. From parliament.
Yes.
What has parliament done to, let's say, you know what, to let's deal with, because people are complaining about the high cost of living. People are complaining about, let's say, fuel. People are complaining about electricity.
Yeah.
People are complaining about every goddamn thing that you can think of.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So something happened where it was brought to parliament. They did, wakajadiliana. Whatever was decided was taken to Korea, to UK, and he signed. Because the thing is, because the reason I'm saying is, what exactly needs to be done, because part of the reason there is Maandamano, and the reason these guys are demonstrating is because of the lack of, there's a lot of things that are going on that are just bad. So what is the role, and what is the role of parliament? What can they be charged with in this particular moment, you know, to address the concerns of the Mwananchi? So that's what I want to understand.
But I want you to understand that this is, you know, like a complicated problem with a lot of moving parts. It took us a while to get here. It's been getting worse by the day, and there's no single silver bullet that will reset or that will restore the, how, I don't know exactly how to put it. There's no single silver bullet that will solve this problem. It cannot be solved through a parliamentary bill. You will see even in the US that the Federal Reserve is trying very hard to control inflation. You know, they're using the tools they have, and they've been trying to do this now for almost 2 years, and they've been able to tame it a bit, but it's still not successful. There's a lot of forces out there, and that's why I say there's an importance of good leadership, which is currently lacking. Good leadership, you know, together with proper expertise, you know, like where it's gonna take a while to get us from where we are from.
But you
get
my point. You get my point.
I'm getting your drift, but I'm telling you, this is a complicated problem. It's not something now. It would start, I would say overall, it would start with good leadership from the top. The problem with the leadership that we have today, and disclaimer, you know, like I voted against Ruto, or let me say I voted for Raila, and I did not vote for Ruto. So part of the problem that I was worried about, you know, like when I was, you know, like very sure that I'm not gonna vote for Ruto, is that he has a tendency of appointing people mostly based on political loyalty, and that's the most important metric to him. I know it's important to consider politics, but now you're seeing we have a situation where we have a lot of people who are political appointees, and it's difficult to go in the room and come up with a proper solution that can get us started at a point where people will see something is being done. Remember, just the last few days, the dollar went to 150 shillings because of something that was not done right. But I think that's being rectified, and there's not too many people in the room to tell the king that you are naked. There's not too many people in the room who have the guts to go tell him that, because they're mostly political appointees. And I think the alternative of sit and do nothing, like maybe what Albo prefers for now, sit and do nothing and just let the economy go, I think things are gonna get worse because of the daily violence that people face by not being able to afford to take their children to school, by not being able to buy food. There's that daily violence that people face that we sometimes tend to overlook when we see the spectacular images of protests. And like Albo said, there needs to be proper direction on where these protests are going. But the other alternative of sit and do nothing, we are going to be in a situation where the dollar will be 250 shillings and we're not going to know what to do. OmoshFaya.
Wow. Ali, you are spoken for 68 people. Okay, so it's interesting that we say that there is no direction. I think there's direction. I think that it really what needs to occur or what needs to happen with the architects of Maandamano is they need to dummy down the demands. And when I say dummy down the demands, is that you've gone for your Maandamano, you're addressing people. At the point when you're addressing people, you do talk about things that have occurred, and you're giving, I guess, a history lesson, and you're saying, okay, this has occurred, these jamas are nyanyasaring us, we are getting hit with tear gas, blah, 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 yada, 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 and we're not standing anymore for this. But I think to Albo's point, or I guess Ali also to your point, would be that at that point in time when you're addressing the masses, when you're sitting, when you have the supporters in front of you, then that's the point when you say, okay, look, remember, we are in here for A, B, C, D, E, F, G. This is what we're trying to achieve, and either we've seen movement, we haven't seen movement, or at the point in time when things drop to this, then we would then be able to say, okay, we're gonna pull back, and or we want to have a sit down with these guys and get these things down to price A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We've not been given an exact price of what is low, and Ali, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Albo, you can correct me if I'm wrong. We've not been given what this low threshold is, or like the last time we were given irreducible minimums. We haven't seen those irreducible minimums that ukiingia hapa ndio pali unaingia box, or if ukiingia hapa ndio whatever. So I think that those are the things that when I say dummy down, that they need to be basically spelled out, and folks need to be told this is exactly what we are doing, because tunaweza piga maandamano for the next 4 years if, let's say, no side is acquiescing, right? And as long as there's frustrated youth people bila jobs, blah blah blah, and with the way the percentages are, wataendelea kuwa wengi, and there's nothing that can be done to give jobs, because the number of candidates, and or should I say the number of people who are graduating and who we are pushing out versus the number of jobs that are available, we surpass them way. I think it's almost like 1 to 10. So 1 out of 10 graduates gets a job. The rest, the 9 out of the 10, wako home. That's basically what's happening at this point in Kenya, and nothing is about to change anytime soon. Na hata kusema ni jua kali, mtachonga, how many benches are you gonna make? How many electricians will you have? How many people are gonna fix cars, and so on and so forth? So these are some of those things that obviously need to be taken care of from an economic standpoint to see how those gaps can be bridged. But aside from that, we have the basic cost of living, which has been exacerbated with things like COVID. COVID has taken us to a point where, and it's one of those things that nobody really talks about, but it's part of why we are where we are now, apart from the policies that have then now been put into place with folks who are not doing economics 101, to me, if you ask me.
All right. Okay, we have a caller, but before we get to the caller, and Albo will get back to you. Tujakusahau. Some quick comments here I want to read before we get to the caller, and Jerry, stay put. Politicians, this is from Stephen Batty. He says politicians should stop this rhetoric. 2022 general elections in Kenya were the best ever, in my opinion. Trying to create a smear campaign against the results is hurting our trust in elections. In the coming future elections, it should stop. That's Steven's comments. And then let me see. Slay says mistrust with the electoral system did not start with Raila. And then DJ Tucha says that's the whole point of Azimio. When they lose next time, they will be like, we said it. Wow, like I think Kenya Kwanza people here are coming out so strong, and we are loving it because we are sometimes accused of not letting Kenya Kwanza people, like air their views. So asanteni sana. We want those comments to keep coming. And then James Olongo says, Chebukati was not a fair arbiter. The fact that his office was a swaying door for all politicians, Tuju and the like, says a lot. Therein lies all our problems. And then Steven says, elections were done right, kabisa. Have you had any issues with them being annulled from the IEBC? The ones that have been with issues at the county level results and tallying at the polling stations. Chebukati was right when he said you will challenge poll stations, not at IEBC, and so far it's come to pass. Now, the one thing I want to say real quick about what Steve Batty said, our electoral system has a problem. That's a fact. I mean, we can like run around like ducks, but our electoral system has a problem. Like from 2007, 2013, our electoral system has always had a problem. Even within here in the diaspora where we registered to vote, like there was a lot of disenfranchisement for one reason or another. So I think that's something, like let's even take Raila's name out of the equation, because I think when Raila is mentioned, it sometimes makes
evokes
it evokes
people
emotions.
get their panties in a bunch.
It evokes emotions on both sides.
But
yeah,
before,
it evokes
I'll
emotions
say
on
this
both
before
sides.
you take this.
Yeah.
I think what the point that I wanted to make is, and I know this is, I'm looking, through a lens of, I hope. No, not
Okay.
UDA. Hoping.
Okay.
But I'm thinking that, I'm thinking that there is a responsibility of Parliament to make things, to try to let it be shown that they're trying to do things to make living conditions, or just to make sure that the day-to-day life of the Kenyan is manageable, no matter whatever they can do. They can table stuff, try and pass to either make it law or to have the president sign or something. That is one. Two,
economies are not cured by legislation.
No. It's not. I think it's not that, but you can also put in place. I believe you can also put in place things that can ameliorate, can do something. Even if you're trying to reduce the hurt, you're trying to reduce the blow, the punch of whatever is going on. And personally, I'll say this, not even personally, I think there's a responsibility from a different lens and prism. There's a responsibility that the opposition or the the members of parliament in the opposition should do something at least to show. I know.
All right.
That
Can
is
I say
different.
something here?
Hold on, Micah. Hold on, let me finish. I understand that is it's one of those, well, this is what should be. However, on the ground, vitu ni different. On the ground, people really don't care what somebody has done in terms of legislator, or what somebody has done in terms of trying to pass laws, or somebody has done to try and make life better. The Kenyan really doesn't care. They really don't. And I'll give you I will just say one name. Micah will speak, and then we go to the caller on the line.
Yeah.
Kivutha Kibwana did whatever he could for Makueni County. Could not even get a Senate post. Micah, karibu sana.
You know, the thing is, forget even about saying IBC. Let me go back to where OneMic asked earlier a question, and Ali said you cannot replace good leadership. You cannot with You cannot use bad leadership and expect it to work where there are good laws. Now, the thing is, if we looked at after the elections, we saw a bunch of small parties that were affiliated to Azimio defecting and moving to the government side, right? So literally right now, the government set itself up in a position whereby if anything was to be done legislatively, if somebody sponsored a bill that was to be brought to the House of Parliament to be discussed or the Senate, Azimio didn't have the numbers to counter the government in any way. They didn't have the numbers to check and balance the government in any way. There is no way that they can say, as an opposition, we are strong enough to tell you what to do and what not to do. And that's why you have somebody like Ruto deciding to appoint all those CASs, even when Parliament rejected them, but he just did it out of it because he knows at the end of the day, if I need to whip Parliament to sing a tune, they'll sing this specific tune. And as Ali said, a lot of people are political appointees. With that, there's not much you can say. Now, Sambazo did say something about our elections being the best he's ever seen. If an election results were supposed to be declared and they were declared 24 hours later, there is nothing good about that election. There's a reason why there was a delay in the declaration of results. So that in itself, whether the results were genuine or not, puts a doubt in those elections. So before we put opinions and dismiss other people, because we are living here comfortably. We might be sending money to our people back home comfortably, but there are people who actually go for those Maandamanos because the cost of living is a burden to them. And there are some people who, yes, it affects them going to work, it affects the business working. That's the whole purpose of demonstration, to affect normal business going on. So that I'm not saying they're supposed to be violent, but it's supposed to cause some uncomfortability, especially in the pocket of the government. So the government relents and relents to the demand that they're working.
Okay.
I don't think there's anybody who's looking for Nusumkate here. I think what we are looking for here is a reform to the electoral system on how it is, a fine-tuning to the electoral laws, and most of the details that were in the BBI. So to finish up on my point that I wanted to say is that the demonstration are violent from both sides, the demonstrators and the police. It's not supposed to be like that. There is a right for people to demonstrate. When you tell people that the end goal of my demonstration is this, then what's the purpose of demonstrating? If you say the reason I'm demonstrating, I want you to do A, B, C, D, F, G, H, it's just the point that, okay, so we know that is what they want. But they're demonstrating because that is what they want. When you come to the negotiating table, how are you going to negotiate if you've showed people that you're going to do? I think the negotiations are supposed to be able to it was supposed to be more of trying to stop business as usual. So for me, what I think is, I'm not asking for dialogue from any of those sides, but I think it's high time whereby there was a way on how to address the issues that are being addressed, both by the political and the Wanjiko in these demonstrations.
Okay.
Because the cost of living in that country it doesn't make sense at all.
Yes, and on that note, the cost of living, like we have a call and Jerry that we're going to be getting to shortly, just to give people perspective on the cost of living. In 1991, in Kenya, like some of you were not born. Some of you listeners were not born, but in 1991,
Slay was just chilling.
Yes, when I was, like when I was getting the opportunity when I was old enough to be sent to the kiosk to buy a loaf of bread, or a packet of unga. A packet of unga was 9 shillings. And if you think I'm lying to you, I'm gonna send to you. There's a clip that has been circulating from the old newspapers where they used to publish the prices for goods in supermarkets. So the price for unga was 9 shillings.
Kina Ibrahim's.
Yes, Kina Ibrahim's, Kina Uchumi. 9 shillings. Today, it is over 200 shillings. So that means the price has gone up 22-fold. Now, if you compare that to America, in around that period, 1991, you know, like our subject matter expert here, Omosh, was in America at that time. He confirmed to us.
During the airlift?
Well, not during the airlift, 1991.
He was already here.
Yeah, he was already here.
Up an airlift.
So at that time, the cost of milk, right now, depending on where you buy, is around $4, $3-4 in some places. It might be cheaper in Walmart, maybe, but at that time the cost of milk was less than $1. So that means between 1991 to 2023, prices of goods in America has increased 4-fold. In Kenya, during the same period, the price has increased around 22-fold. And that just tells you how inflation has been slapping people. Let's go to Njeriwa Wambui on the phone. She's been very patient. Let's listen to what she has to say. Can you hear us, Njeri?
Njeri going once? Njeri going twice?
Hello? Is it Janet?
Or is it Janet?
Aye.
Okay. Caller. Any caller on the line? Or maybe she gave up waiting on us.
Albo, I think
Hello?
Albert.
Yes, we'll try.
No, I hear somebody saying hello.
Is there someone?
Hello?
Okay, all right. Caller, please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
My name is Pablo, and I'm calling from Sacramento, California.
Oh, Pablo.
Ongeza
Wow.
volume, boss.
Ongeza
Yes.
volume. It's been a long time. Talk to us
Well,
about.
like I
Wait,
do.
you know Pablo?
This is not the one Pablo,
I'm just curious.
or maybe this is a different Pablo, or there's more than one Pablo in California.
I think so. I think we have just
okay.
we landed
No,
a new
it's the same
Pablo.
one.
It's the same one.
We landed a
Yes, but
new old
there's so
Pablo
much
who's
echo.
shy.
Okay. All right. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Pablo. Tell us what you think about the
Now,
conversation that we've been having.
Let's talk politics.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. You can hear me now, right?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah. So here's my point, and I'd like to fully state that I voted in these past elections, and they went well. I voted for the UDA presidential candidate, but that doesn't mean I can't point fingers at him and his administration when they go wrong. Now, about the Maandamano, first of all, I think, and I agree with what Albo said, the unfortunate thing is that they lack a direction. Like, we don't know where exactly we are headed or what we are demonstrating about. Because, like the Honorable Prime Minister Raila is saying, open the servers. You know, that has nothing to do with us on the ground. We don't know why he's pushing so much to have those servers opened. And then in between that, he's trying to tell us, okay, at the same time, we are fighting for the prices of unga to go down. But if you look at what the president is saying on this other side, when unga was up during the handshake administration, so to speak, unga was high during that time. And he didn't say anything. He didn't get anyone out on the streets to go and, you know, the Maandamano. And then, unfortunately, this Maandamano right now, we just got from COVID the other day. So we need this, the economy to pick up. And it's not just the Kenyan economy that is not doing well. So many economies around the world, so to speak, they're not doing well. And if you listen to what the deputy president is saying, though even for him, he needs to tame his, you know, his rhetoric a little bit. He's saying when they got into power, they didn't find, you know, the coffers were empty. There was no money. There was nothing. So this is what I think. If the other side had won, you know, the Azimio side had won, we would still be in the same predicament because the Ruto and his people, they picked up from what they had from the previous administration. So it doesn't mean if Raila was there now, the prices of unga would just go down like drastically, like ASAP, like today. You know, the prices of unga have gone down. The prices will still be up there. Everything would just be, you know, you are trying to bring the prices down and everything. So at the end of the day, I think it comes down to politics. It's unfortunate this was his 5th try and he didn't make it. So he's trying to blame everyone and everything because I'm also thinking, what if those servers are opened and, you know, it is found out like the other side actually won. Now what? I know he'll say, they were stolen, they were rigged. The Azimio also told us that they have the system, they have the government on their side, but then they still lost. And then if you listen to everyone who's talking about Kenyan election, they're saying this is by far the most transparent and the best elections they have seen. What gauge they are using for that, I don't know what gauge they are using. I believe everyone is out to say they were good, they were bad. So, the debate is still out there for anyone to pick up. But then I would just say if the Prime Minister gave a clear direction, and something that, is properly justifiable, that can bring the government to the table so that they can all, I know he doesn't want handshake. Handshake is off the table. I don't think he wants that, and he has said that countless times. I believe him. I believe, he's been fighting for a good cause, for the political space to be expanded, to be, to be what it is. And then finally, I heard him yesterday saying that, the president's side is pulling everyone to their side. What about the people that are going to, to state out to meet the president? They're going there on their own volition. They're not being sent there by anyone. They're just going there to find their own, whatever it is that is taking them there. So we can't say that, the president is asking them to go to State House. We know, the political undertones and everything that is going down there. But they are walking to State House to go say what? We came here to find stuff for our own people. And then the last thing, look at even the Maandamano, the convoys. They are full of people that were ex-MPs, ex-senators, ex-governors. Where are the current members of parliament sitting right now, apart from a few that we are seeing up there? That means it's not everyone that's supporting them, and it's not like they're working with the government. But like Governor Nyong'o said, I'm looking for my county. I don't need my county to be messed up by this Maandamano. Let's go to Nairobi and break things.
Okay, thank you so much, Pablo. Those were, very interesting comments. It came out clear, that he voted for the president, and, by his sentiment, came out very clear that he still supports the president, which is a good thing. We like hearing conversations from both sides, and today I can see the president's people have come out strong, which we appreciate. But this is one thing that I'm going to say, because I think everybody's hurting in Kenya, regardless of what side you're in. But this is what I'm going to say, why people on the president's side are making his work easier. And maybe this example I may use may not be one of the best. Imagine, you are fighting for this chick, two people, and then you got the chick. Then you're in the relationship, there's issues in the relationship, but the excuse you come back with is that, the other guy that you left would not have done better than me.
Mm-hmm.
That is a problem, because that's what's happening. Because I think,
agreed.
When reality is setting in right now, Ruto is the president.
UK is not the president.
UK is not the president.
He left.
Raila is not the president.
Right.
Raila is not the president.
Right.
But his supporters, instead of, just circling in on him that this is what we need from you, they're always circling back that Raila would not have done a better job.
We don't know, but he's not the
president. But that's what I'm saying. We don't know.
I'm in agreement.
So think about it. You've gotten into a marriage, and you're messing up in the marriage, and then you're telling your wife
the other guy
that the other guy would
your
not
ex.
have done better than me. I think that's problematic, and not to take this side or that side, but I think that's problematic, and that's what's making it easier for the current Kenya Kwanza administration to just get by, because they understand they have meat that their people are gonna work with as they're messing up.
You can't say that the previous administration left 93 billion or however much money was left in the coffers, but yet here you're doing your CS, whatever you're sending,
the spending has not shown that they have goodwill in trying to tame the budget issues that we're having.
Or now let me say something about this server issue. The issue or the problem I have with that is, and we've if there's a problem, let them be refuted. But when you look at what the IEBC posted in terms of voters and whatever. You know, Ruto won by 233,000 votes.
Now, as far as those numbers are concerned, let me say something, because the question service has been coming up here. Now, do I think Ruto, and this is now my personal opinion, do I think Ruto got more votes than Raila in the last elections? I will authoritatively say yes. He did get more votes than Raila in the last election. Do I think Ruto got 50% plus one votes? That's up in the air.
Okay.
And that's the issue. And I think that's the issue that they should be talking about. But I think in the environment of a political rally, it's difficult to bring that out. And that's the reason why they're saying, they're just saying Tulishinda. I think, you know, like the election should have gone, you know, like for a runoff, but that's just my view. And everybody who's saying that these were the best elections, everybody who's saying that, they voted for Ruto.
I'll say this. Let me counter. It's not a counter, but let me play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
You're in a game. You lose 2-1. Right?
Yeah.
But you look at what's happening is it's a close call, but we look at, let's say, for example, you start looking at maybe the fouls that were not called, or the penalties that could have been, or probably should have been.
Yeah.
Penalties that should have been given or not. You know, did the ball hit the ball hit the shoulder, or did it hit the arm over here, or
enyewe umeongea kama fan wa Arsenal kabisa.
Saskia sasa hater. No.
Wacha unamalize.
Kwenda huko. 7 baller. So but when you look at the whole game, you know, there's a whole game. So you look at the chances that you had. Even in the NFL, we look at, you know, we talk about maybe this guy didn't make this catch. Like even
Martinelli alitegwa.
I'll even give an example like the Baltimore Ravens. You know, like in the playoff game that, you know, they played and lost to Cincinnati. People are looking at the Hail Mary that this guy did not catch. He not set himself up to do what he could not catch. However, there's a guy who fumbled at the goal line, and the Cincinnati, defensive took the ball and ran with it. So all I'm saying is, at some point in time, you know, it's instead of looking at the small cracks, okay, what else? What is the bigger picture is, in this instance, like now, for example, when you look at the numbers, 700,000 people did not vote in Luo Nyanza. 700,000. Those are according to the numbers IABC posted. 700,000 people did not vote. If again, those are
the
numbers. It's not a narrative. Those are the numbers.
Those are narratives, you know, like that keep being
no.
That I think, you know,
we're looking at strongholds, and we can go back.
Yes. I do understand what that narrative doesn't tell. You see, like for here in the diaspora, for example, we can tell why so many people who wanted to vote did not register. You know, there's other issues to do with registration,
right,
that have a direct effect on how many people register or don't register. There's a reason why Mount Kenya and parts of Rift Valley always have a very high number of registered voters. And this is something that we can come back and interrogate, because there's a lot of, you know, like research that has been done about registration. Because there's also this narrative that sometimes I hear about the cost, that people say, oh, watu ni wavivu, walikuwa hataki kupiga kura. It's a very nice narrative to make others feel good about themselves, but there's certain issues within these communities that make people not to be able to register in as high numbers as you see in Central and also in parts of Rift Valley. And these are the issues about electoral justice, because electoral justice is not in that screen where people are counting, which Kina Stephen Batia are always talking about here. It starts from the first point, from the point where, you know, like from the point where people start getting registered from the very beginning. So there is a reason behind why certain regions have lower numbers of registration, and it's not about the people not wanting to register or just being lazy.
I am not talking about registration.
Yes, Luo Nyanza.
I am talking about voting.
Yes, okay.
Yes,
both.
How many
Both.
people?
That's what I'm saying.
How many people
That's
have
what I'm saying.
registered
That's
in
what
Luo
I'm
Nyanza?
saying. That's what I'm saying. Both registration
And voting.
and voting.
So the obstacles
voting.
you brought about obstacles.
Yes.
Of course, we know here there is voter suppression, removing places, not allowing people to vote, to register to vote during Sunday mass or whatever.
Yeah.
We know that. Going by the numbers, what then exactly happened, or can you speculate that made 700,000 people not vote?
So it's the same reason, like when you go to, for example, certain school districts, you'll find that there's certain school districts that have certain issues, about absenteeism in school. It's not that those parents want their kids to be absent. There's certain structural reasons that's making, like certain school districts have a high absenteeism of another. But now I think the problem and that's why there's always issues in elections that come up, there are these simple narratives that are thrown out, simple narratives like Luos did not want to go to the polling station, or people in
You
the
are the
coast
last party in
lazy.
the conference.
Okay. All right. Okay. Sorry about that. Or people, these simple narratives are usually thrown out, and they get into the bloodstream of WhatsApp groups and conversations, and people keep singing them, but these issues of electoral justice are not being addressed. I want us to go back to Albo.
This is not about narratives. The fact is, per IEBC, the numbers that are put out, when you look at the numbers of people who came out to vote versus who did not come out to vote, that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the numbers. From there,
Yeah.
you can generate narratives.
It's
not
factual. It's factual.
not.
It's factual, but it's like that argument of where there's 3 people in a bar who are low income. The average salary is $30,000 a year, so they're not doing well. And then
there's Steve Bezos comes in, whatever.
and then the average now is 1 million, and then it looks like everyone in the bar is doing well because of an average number that has been, and that's the thing.
Again.
And that's where I'm telling you, I'm telling you, unfortunately, these narratives have spread to a point where they become popular, to a point where people don't want to look under the hood as to why, like why you have one area that has a 90% turnout and another area has a 55% turnout. And people just want to look at those numbers and just assume that, people in this side, they just did not want to come to vote, either because they was overconfident or because they were lazy. Because those are the narratives that usually come through, And
again, I'm trying to stick to the numbers, because by the same token, with those narratives you're saying,
yes,
it could also be on the flip side. And on the flip side, meaning that, the narratives of people are lazy, whatever, it could also be that people just
actually are lazy.
No.
Just assume
they're going to win.
Yeah.
Because there's also that narrative.
Yes.
But because to kona serikali, but again, then that brings in another angle where, these people, the machinery in trying to make the people go out and make sure that you cast the vote. Because I remember at one point in time, and on this show, everyone was being stopped and asked in some city, and almost you can collaborate, if you are registered. Am I right or wrong?
Narratives.
No. It is what was going on qua ground.
You're wrong. You're wrong.
So it did not happen.
You're wrong.
Okay.
Let me speak. You're wrong. And this is I think the problem that's happening with such conversations that makes it difficult to participate, in the sense that people want to look at the nice paint in a car, but they don't want to look at what's happening inside
the
the
hood.
hood. Yes.
Okay.
That's a problem. You know, like the paint is nice, you know, the car looks good, you know, like kwa picha ukiweka, you know, like every slay queen will want to get inside it. But once you get it, that's when you realize kuna issues hapa na engine. But real quick, I want to go to Albo. And I know we have a lot of comments that have been coming. I want to remind the listeners that you tuned into the OneMic show, and I'm your co-host and producer, Ali Badawy. We're talking about the state of continuous demos that we're having in Kenya. Both Azimio and the ruling Kenya Kwanza supporters have been involved in different forms of Maandamano. We are shortly going to touch on the raid of former President Uhuru Kenyatta's farm at Northlands, so stay tuned for that. Now, later in the social segment, if we're going to have time, that is, because this topic has really caught us up here today. We wanted to go into the details on the new mobile consular services that were just talked about. Was your city or state left out? We want you to keep it locked so that you can tell us in the social hour. Real quick, Albo. In Kibra constituency, there was issues between the Luos and the Nubians. And a mosque and a church ended up being burned. You know, like I don't know which one was burned, you know, like more than the other, or I don't know exactly what happened. But who is it that engineered this issue that was happening in Kibra of Luos clashing with Nubians? Because the argument has been an Azimio versus Kenya Kwanza demonstration. Baluos and Nubians, both of them are supporters of Raila Odinga. You know, so what engineer? Do you have any information on that?
The best information I think I've had on that is, in as much as just Luos and Nubians are voting for Raila, the Ruto camp is also trying to get part of that action through Mariga. Now, what I have heard is that there were, of course, what do you call, paid, you know, normally when such things happen, people are paid to do them. And I'm not convinced about an end goal here, because I think it would be an extremely difficult task to try and get support from Kibra over Raila. I personally think it's an impossibility at the moment, and it's wasted resources. I can't, because it's become very difficult these days to understand the motivations of some of the things that are happening. At the bottom of it, of course, we know it's the power that people want, but a lot of the actions seem, how can I explain this? They don't seem thought through carefully. They seem more reactionary than anything. So long as I'm doing something against my opponent, then whatever it is, because I also don't think that, I think we've already established that we've placed in very many positions of power a lot of incompetent people who are also corrupt heavily, who have never really shown anything. The way this position we find ourselves is that a lot of people at the top are very incompetent. And if you add corruption to that, it's just, I believe if you're going to be as optimistic as you can, and I'm just kind of shifting on to what somebody was saying earlier about the elections being the most credible or whatnot. That's ridiculous. I think it's a wish more than an actuality. Most people understand that the Kenyan the thing is, it's not the laws, it's not the setup. Everything, the way it was written down, how it was meant to go down, how you verify results, if we had used the right biometrics from the beginning, because also how we purchase this biometric equipment, who's running the admin, who's doing what. There's a lot of murky happenings around these things. When they do the requisitions for these things, how you see there's always noise about that, because I believe strongly there's always an effort to try to control that point where who is announcing the results. How can we make it favor us? There's always that. I don't know if I don't believe it's one side doing it. I think the IBC chairman, as I think the last 3 or so, they've disgraced themselves repeatedly. And I see, because most people want to pretend that these people are not independent, neither are they clean of heart. They're easily paid off. They're easily paid off. So whoever gives the biggest amount, the one who could possibly, because that's where we've gotten as Kenyans. Whoever pays the most gets to have his say. And I believe also like that this last election, Ruto might have won that legitimately. The numbers notwithstanding, I think we should do a total overhaul of the election registry and whatnot. I think there's a lot of dead weight in there. I think there's been a lot of insertion in that entire system of a lot of fake voters and whatnot. If you think that's not possible here, then I don't think you understand Kenya very well. I think that there's a kind of a wishful thinking we have right now that we've turned some corner in election. No, we haven't. Just because your guy won doesn't mean anything. It just means they were clean at this time in pulling off the scams, but it's a definite scam. If you know Kenya, if you know the amount of money that's involved, because that's my belief. I believe Ruto just wanted to be near where he can press the button and the money comes out. If anybody who has any history about Ruto knows, this guy doesn't play that nice game. He takes everything. You know, people have forgotten just a few years ago, he took all the money for 2 dams for his area. They still voted for it. I mean, it's become a game which is played in every location using money. If you're going to Kibra people are suffering. If you pay a few hooligans, they'll make some noise, and if you've engineered it such that there's reporting on the same. Because I'm unfortunately I'm one of those people who've been at this for too long. I've become jaded by the process. I think there's very little. The laws, Kenyan laws they're fantastic, but we know why nothing works. Is because we want to pretend we are good people who are honest, and we are not. And I think that's the crux of it. Anyone in Kibra supporting Raila or otherwise can be bribed. You can see Jalango at the moment. People are not going to Ruto. Ruto is making offers to Raila's people, just like they've always done. They're not going to State House out of their own position. There's money being exchanged,
Money
offers being made. So,
yeah,
let's not be naive about these things. Fortunately for me, I come from a somewhat political family by extension. So I have seen a lot of these machinations go on for the last 20, 30 years. I can't, it will be really be dishonest of me to try and pretend we have something going on here. There is a lot of shady dealings. And I wanted to, I don't know if I'm talking too much, but people are missing something about these demonstrations and the cost of living. We are being shown that our economy is run by cartels, not by market forces. That's why you have this ridiculous multiplication of prices over short periods as compared to other places. Because US, UK, all these other places, they have their issues, but they try to let the market do its thing as much as possible. What we have in Kenya is that the people in power are also the people who run down manufacturing, they're the people importing instead of using local. So it's the complication is that we are thinking, people are not wrong for asking the government to control prices because they always do it. That's them. If you want the price of maize to come down, the things they do, either they flood in with imports or they use their local reserves that they own. So people know who's controlling the prices, and I think it's because of that that we must understand that we can't go on if that's the status quo, because the politicians can't also be the people running the economy who also own everything, and also, them and their, it can't work.
Okay, all right. Albo, asante sana. So, I mean, that's just a very interesting perspective, especially where you said that the government is controlled by cartels. One thing that I know here in the US, one of the agencies that's the most depoliticized is the Federal Reserve. You know, like you'll have the same Federal Reserve chair serve even across 3 different presidents, and they will never interfere with that. And I think we haven't gotten to that level in Kenya. And that's the reason, you know, like we once had a very vibrant manufacturing sector, ikakufa. We once had, you know, like so many, we were making textiles, we were doing so many things, but they just disappeared. And all of a sudden you had, you know, like certain individuals importing things at a cheaper price, and now at the cost of causing, you know, like mass unemployment. It's normal nowadays to graduate university and not have employment. Like that's the norm. Correct. That's not even the exception. You know, it's a norm, you know, which is unfortunate because now all these people, all these kids that are growing up are seeing what's happening to their older siblings, to their cousins, to their uncles. So they're growing up conscious. At least, you know, like when we were growing up, there was so much hope. You know, like you could see huyu alisoma akenda university na akapata hivi akona wera akona kakitu na nini, but now this is no longer there, you know. So that's why you're seeing people are willing to start doing illegal things very easily at a very early age, be it, you know, like getting involved in selling drugs, or even women, you know, like selling themselves. There's a lot of, you know, like very young Kenyan women in various, you know, like social media platforms who are, you know, like selling themselves, you know, like virtually, you know, for you to see them and pay them. This is happening, you know, like
and
we can't run away from this.
It's not only fans.
Yes, it's not only fans. Yeah, you know, and this is happening, and this is a very dangerous place that we're getting into. But now we want to get onto another quick comment as we're getting to wrap up. This also, but let's listen to the comment first, and then we are gonna come back. Okay.
Are you ready to play? Okay.
Hello, this is Sambaza with the Sambaza podcast, and I live in Forney, Texas, in the USA. My question is, do you think Kimani Ichung'wah should go to jail for his statements that he had made about the Northlands issue? And this also goes with Dennis Itumbi. Should they stand trial for what they had said or tweeted before whatever happened or culminated to the raid of the Northlands farm? My second.
Okay. All right. There we go. Northlands raid. The comment from
he called it a raid, not an invasion.
Or an invasion, yeah, the Northlands invasion. The comment that he was talking about that Ichung'wah made, I'm also gonna play it. So just give me 1 second here as we get this together. 1 second. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Let's go.
Ya zile mashamba kubwa kubwa mumejishikia, tukianzia na hapo Thika Road Nairobi, hapo Ruiru. Kabla hatujaenda Taita Taveta, kabla hatujaenda Nakuru, mali ya Mkenya ikivamiwa, hata hizo mashamba zenyu tutazivamia, na wenye hawana mashamba wapate mashamba Kenya hii. Musifikiri ati wananchi wa kawaida ndio watapoteza mali. Even you will pay a price if you continue to instigate violence and bloodshed in this country.
Okay. All right. So this was before the invasion of the Northlands, and as we know, the Northlands it was invaded by thousands of people. There were fires that were lit, and livestock was stolen. Apparently, sheep and goats were being sold, you know, like along the highways. And even more interesting is that plots were subdivided using mabati structures. Wanna go back to Albo and tell us, you know, like this is now not, I know people have been talking Azimio. Now, this clearly were not Azimio supporters who are attacking, you know, like former President Uhuru Kenyatta's farm. Talk to us about that, what you know and what people are saying down on the street. Albo.
Okay. Obviously, the initial narrative is about what you've just played. This thing disturbs me particularly for one reason, because it's a complicated situation in that I don't think the Kenyattas legitimately own all that land they make a claim to. I have, for the longest time, that's why I've never supported Uhuru, that's why I've never supported any endeavors that family does, because even what they did to the milk industry, they just take things and they use their enormous political power to do that.
They say it's
But
willing buyer, willing seller.
Yeah. So on this other flip side, the Kenya Kwanza people, they're exactly the same people. They do the exact same thing now at different locations. What has happened now is that, and that's why I would never really support somebody like Ruto. It's because he's a winner takes all kind of person. He will, at tremendous cost to the Kenyan citizen, he will try to reduce the economic and political impact of the Kenyatta family, just like Moi did back in the day. Of course, Mama Gina played a card at that time, just waiting it out kind of situation. They have amassed a lot. There is, and for me, the sympathy kind of goes out of the window, because for years, as the people in Central and the Jubilees and whatnot, they were supporting these guys as they were stealing, as they were taking things from the Kenyan, but because it was Mutuetu and all that nonsense, what happened is that they let these guys get to that position. In fact, I remember when Uhuru was running the second time, they even made up propaganda about how it's ordained in the Bible or whatever the hell that he would be president. They heaped so much power on this guy. It's very hollow and fake right now to go, no, hata sisi tunataka share yetu. No. You helped in kind and in action to get those people in the position they are. So it's very disingenuous right now to see people running or try to take this or that. I don't know how those properties. Okay, we know how the Kenyattas have access to all those properties, and because of the tremendous amount of wealth they've been able to steal during Uhuru's time, they're building literal towns and cities. It's one of those things where you have the diverting water that from rivers, they're doing what? It's a level of impunity that it's very dangerous to allow to let go, as in that's how most countries have come down. There's very few people who have everything. And right now, the problem we have is that the same people, like the people who are instigating the guys to go raid these farms, the Uhuru farm, the Kenyatta family farms and whatnot, they are not doing it because they want, as this idiot is talking about, that he wants to give it to the Kenyan. No. They want to take it for themselves. Everybody is quite clear about that. Now, the small man at the bottom who's maybe made to do this, even him, he has hopes he can get a piece. You understand? But so that's why everybody's jumping in. They want to, hata mimi naweza pata kaploti hapa, naweza pata kambuzi. So it's a criminal enterprise from the citizenry to the politicians. So what is going on right now is our cocks, so to speak, have come home to roost. We can't run away from what we've created. People want, this is the reason. They are bad people and they should. No, it's a complicated situation in that I think many of us can argue that property was not got legitimately. The politics was used. At the same time, the people who are trying to repossess that from them are not really for the Mwananchi. They also want the properties for themselves. But the argument obviously has deteriorated to the bottom feeder territory, where it is watu waliiba sasa tuchukue hata sisi. Sasa you see, the thieves are telling you this was stolen, so we need to steal. It's a mess. It's fake. It's all it's just they're using all this. We want to give people the lands and whatnot, so that they can forcefully take what the Kenyatas have. That's what it is.
Now, last question to you, Albo. You know, as we know, you know, like you woke up so early in the morning. We appreciate you. But just one last question we have for you before we let you go. And of course, if anyone has a question for Albo, you know, this is your time. Number 2026834570*5, or you can type in a comment. You know, like if you have any question. Now, Albo, where people watching from diaspora, I mean, you interact with a lot of us. You interact with a lot of people in the diaspora, and you're seeing what they're saying, you're hearing what they're saying. What exactly is the blind spot? What are people out here missing, you know, like when they engage in these conversations? Because the diaspora has been accused before of being part of fanning flames, of what's happening in Kenya without physically being there. Albo.
My personal opinion on the matter, that I think that's hogwash. In as much as people want to think it, there are very few blind spots that people have about a lot of issues. If we care about anything, it's not difficult to accrue a reasonable amount of information on the subject and be able to make decisions on that. The thing is, if you talk about diaspora Kenyans, I'm not one to talk about being given responsibility without having the power. You know, the Kenyan diaspora, for whatever reason you want to put to talk about them, you guys send a whole lot of money this way. The number of people that you guys support, for example, I don't think it's fully appreciated. And if you want to have a say about a political issue in this country, because also some of you have gonna fraud hapa, my Airbnb. Who got you guys in that Airbnb business?
We wachana na watu wa Airbnb. Wachana na watu wa Airbnb kabisa, because they will come for you. Yeah.
So, the thing is, you have property here. You have a lot of stake here. And we all appreciate, I think everybody knows why people go abroad. It's economy. You have to make money. It's one life. I don't know why people keep talking like you need to make such huge sacrifices for something and not have anything back. Okay? None of you has to be in a position where you need to support somebody here, but you do it anyway because it's not just about you. So if you want to have a political opinion about it, if somebody is saying you're flaming, you're adding fuel to the fire, it can't be anything close to what we do here. It can't be it can't be anything close to the amount of tribalism, the amount of bad arguments and bad decisions we make here. It only gets convenient because I'm fortunate myself. I went to school in Lowland. I've worked in Cumberland. I've worked in Mombasa. I've worked in Nairobi. I've worked with so many people: Chinese, Indians, Americans. That's what my job, helps have access to. But if you're going to have that mentality that somebody who's spending their resources cannot have a say, it's just never going to work. You guys are not splitting you're not flaming any fires. I'm not aware of big funders with billions and billions that are funding politicians on the ground to cause chaos. I am not. If you're aware of such, maybe we can have an argument about that. But the blind spots are not. You guys are Kenyans. You've been here. What blind spot do you have? What is it that you don't know that's going on here? I think there is a misconception, and I think that's used normally as an excuse to not listen to someone. Like say, okay, you are what is it about our economy that you understand? You're Kenyans. You can have a say. You can check all the news. In fact, the information you watch, Citizen, NTV there in the US, whatever. It's the same thing that people on the ground are watching. And people on the ground are even more convinced by that news more than anyone. So if you really want to know what people are thinking, you watch the news. That's the position we are. There are few people who don't, like myself and whatnot, but we are a minority, and we're not really a voting bloc of consequence, so to speak. So what people need to understand is that there isn't, somebody has to tell you what the blind spot is. Because for me personally, I don't see it.
Okay.
And if you're flaming anything, unless you kuna mapesa mmepea ma NGO hapa zianze this vitu on the ground, sijui. But otherwise, I don't have. I'm not aware of I know the narrative. I just don't buy it. I think it's an attempt to shut down.
Okay. No, umetaja NGOs. I know American NGOs sometimes have a big impact on certain things that happen back there on the ground. I think that's a conversation that we can have another day. I think we have a caller here. Watu wanaingia last minute sasa. Unajua wale students, yani mwalimu amekuwa akifunza class yote, anauliza mko na swali, hakuna, but when class iko karibu kuisha ndio swali inakuja. So we have a caller.
Bado alikuwa na dab.
1974. Thank you for calling in OneMic show. Hello.
Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
And are you using Karatasi brand?
I think hawa ni wale.
Karatasi, hii ni kasuku
just
hii.
press *5.
Hiyo ni gani hiyo? Kasuku. Ala, kasuku. Oh my goodness. Kasuku bado ziko. Hiyo ni 32 pages.
1974.
Yeah.
Arlington,
Hii ni kale
Texas.
kadogo kakupa notes.
Okay. Okay, huyo caller ni is the caller there?
Hold on.
I think maybe
You call where?
Caller,
what?
can you hear us?
Hello, Cora? Hey, there's somebody.
No, there's somebody.
There's somebody. Is
Is
somebody
it-
shy?
Is that it's a fax machine maybe?
1974. Upo.
Unatupokea?
We'll give you 30 seconds to respond.
Oh, okay, I think
We have $1 million if you answer.
yeah, I think this is someone who was testing whether this thing really
Oh,
works.
they're testing to see if
Unasikia uko Makale in the background.
if they hit *5, is it? *5.
*5, yeah. Well, you know, like we tried.
I know it. I know who it is over here. They owe you.
Okay.
Oh, you know who it is?
Yeah.
So you want me to call that? Okay.
Msana jaribu kusambaza lakini haishikaki.
Okay.
Or maybe they don't have airtime.
You are the last party in the
Okay.
conference.
I may disconnect. Aya, sawa. Albo, before you go, we want you to tell the people what you do, you know, besides you know, like making our very beautiful videos. You're a filmmaker, you're a cinematographer. I want you to talk about it just for a minute or two, and maybe some of the things that you've been working on that have been sending you out to Maseno and having to go through 7 roadblocks. Just
And
to go
5
get work
hours
done.
of Maandamano, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, you participated in Maandamano
Yeah,
unwillingly.
You can check that off.
Yeah. Albo.
Yeah. Thank you. The generic term for what I do is I'm a filmmaker. That's the umbrella term, but more specifically, I'm a producer, I'm a cinematographer. If need calls for it, sometimes I do direct. What I was doing at Maseno, I get a lot of jobs to do, say, adverts, documentaries, you know, such. That's what keeps the lights on, so to speak. But our main concern is because we are trying to create a sustainable way to make like cinema quality films that we want to primarily be distributing in the diaspora. Like the movies come to America or UK or whatever the diaspora is, Kenyan or Africa in general. I'm hoping for bigger Africa. The idea is to have a consistent film culture, like our films coming from here, the same way Hollywood brings their films here every season. We need that back because I'm a filmmaker, yes, but really I am a businessman who trades in film. It's one of those things where we're not taking advantage of it in as much as I think the biggest and best economic block when it comes to entertainment products is the diaspora. People are underutilizing you guys. So we are hoping that starting either late this year or early next year, we have a biannual film. We bring films or film, cinema to independent theaters across America. We are working on, of course, we're working on the states that's most populated by you guys, because the diaspora, that's where it grows from, and hopefully, so there is that, and then we are also creating an equivalent to, say, the MCU, but now populated with African and Kenyan folklore and fantasy and whatnot. So we are creating a superhero universe called the Book of Ka. We've started it on an animation level. We are building it slowly. It's very expensive, very tedious work, but we believe that that's the kind of intellectual property that will give us bigger economic gains and a bigger reach in the world. Most people don't seem to understand that we're in competition in the world now. Entertainment, even if we're just consuming mostly hours, everything else, if it comes correct, you will listen and they'll take your attention away. The Nigerians have proven it across Africa, some aspects of South Africa also. I think it's time that we took that opportunity and ran with it. I think it's a unique time where just an independent filmmaker like myself, I work with my brother, is my business partner, very smart guy.
And a Chenjerian. Chenjerian.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, a Chenjerian. Yes. So,
is this war ever going to stop?
Yeah, so what we are trying to create here is
never,
because I am no longer just a romantic about film and whatnot. I mean, it's good to be artsy about it, but we can't sustain it if we can't get proper markets.
Okay.
And I'm looking for the diaspora to be that stopgap, if you will, because our films, to make them, they're if you have to compare to Hollywood or anywhere else, they're very, very, very cheap. So breaking even, making a profit and being able to build on that is not difficult,
okay,
especially if you are dealing with diaspora. If I come to diaspora, even 2 states, 3 states can pay me for a whole year, and it can allow me to make more movies. But we want to start that culture, I think, as a business, as a cultural exchange, and as to build our economy, because Hollywood already has their thing. You guys are already flooded some of the best content out there. If you are not able, what we are trying to do is compete with that content for your attention. And I think it's a worthwhile investment. So to the Book of Fire especially, it's going to take a bit of time. I think this year we have an episode coming out.
Okay.
But from that, I'm hoping that we can now build. I have a couple of films that I'm discussing with some financiers to get going. I think one will be done this year, which I'll bring to America, and we see what happens from there.
Okay.
So sijui kama diaspora would be excited about this thing, but I'm kind of sticking my neck out and I'm thinking, I think you guys will consume if we come correct.
No, absolutely. Right? Diaspora is hungry for Kenyan content.
You know what?
Diaspora is hungry for
we don't have access
Kenyan.
To it.
Yes.
Let me put it this way. Listeners, go to 3D Africa. Africa with a K.
Okay. Yes.
And I want you to look for, there's the Book of Ka, but also look for Lady Moran.
Lady Moran.
Animation. Lady Moran.
That's like a superhero.
Yes.
Okay.
But it's animation. Just go.
Very exciting stuff.
Just go. Angalia. I will not even tell you what it is. Just go. 3D Africa with a K, not C.
Media.
K.
Yeah.
Media.
3D Africa Media. Is it 3D?
Yes.
Yeah,
3D
but
Africa...
on YouTube. Just go on YouTube.
Okay.
On YouTube.
Yes, on YouTube. 3D Africa, one word, Africa with a K, Media.
Yeah. Just go look.
But also if you search Book of Ka, Book of K-A-H, you should be able to find that.
And on top of that, you can go to the Instagram and Facebook page. Just follow and see what they're working on. It's one of those, kina Luna Magere. It's one of those you're like, you know what?
Mekatilili Wamenza.
I can hang with this. Just go.
Our own superheroes.
Our own, and by the way, crafted and drafted and designed and done by one of ours. Si ati mzungu kutoka nje.
Yeah.
here.
And
It's
Drew,
interesting. He said
Kenya.
you're going to say the same
yeah,
thing about
Drew
yeah.
Kimani is asking, can you do films about different African creation stories? The blacks here would really relate to it. Something from James Osogo history books, and here's
It's
an
already
interesting.
done.
It's
already done.
He let him answer that.
It's already done.
They're doing it right now. He talked about Luanda Megere and all that. It's already being done.
Who's doing it?
They're doing it.
Oh, you're talking about
Yes.
Kinalbo. Okay.
Kinalbo,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kinalbo
The
are
book
doing
of
it
Ka.
already.
And I think, Albo,
Yeah.
your audience will not only be Kenyans if you come here, it's going to be Africans from other countries and also Black Americans. In fact, Black Americans, those should be the biggest targets. I want to connect you to Brittany in Africa. There's so much hunger, like for African content. There's something happening within the African American community. There's thirst and hunger for wanting to engage with African content, and that's why they've embraced the music. That's why they've embraced, the movies on Netflix, and that's why, when you come with these unique ideas, I think that will be the biggest market that you
If
need
you
to
guys,
consider.
if you guys can go and watch Lady Moran, 3D Africa Media, the Lady Moran, tutaongea baadaye. I'll say this, you're welcome.
It's very interesting that this was brought up by one of our listeners, and Kinalbo already doing it, because Netflix actually just released, like I think it was Jana, because they normally do releases on Fridays. There's African short stories where they're basically doing short, I think like either 20 or 28-minute the little, I guess, moviettes or whatever you call them, movies that are telling stories from different parts of Africa.
Yeah,
Which is, I was like blown away. The one I'm watching right now, it starts off is I think based in Uganda.
Now you
There's
see,
Kenya in there. I don't know how many other stories they have in
you
there,
see
but
Paukwa Pakawa, Sahani ya
yeah,
mchele,
mchele, yeah.
Giza ya mwizi, Kiboko
Albo.
Yeah, Ali. Sorry.
na maziwa.
Yeah, Mosh.
You see, those are now becoming a thing.
But this is the thing. This is the thing. Speaking on what Mosha just said, I appreciate that Netflix are here. They're investing resources in African stories and whatnot. But there is a very big, dangerous caveat. And I saw it. I was actually at the Kalasha market. That's where the Netflix event was taking place. There's a very dangerous precedent being set here, because again, we are letting the West tell our stories. They are saying that you're taking these guys and you're giving them. No. They have a say in how you're telling the story. They have a say in what you put in it. They have a say. It's not organic as people are thinking. I have a problem trying to say like I'm biting the arm that's feeding some people, but we have to be authentic from the beginning. Hollywood already knows that if you look at their movies, they've run out of stories. They're repeating stories. They're taking old franchises, rehashing and trying to reimagine. Every time I hear that word around art, I get a bit crazy, because everything they've called reimagined has been not good at all, to be nice about it. So what we are trying, because also the current mode is that there is activism in a lot of these productions, and the way they're coming about it, because activism doesn't create industry. I can assure you that. If you look at Hollywood, they started in entertaining and building a base of loyal fans to be able to monetize. What's happening right now, unfortunately, I think we are just getting shafted without thinking. And because we are poor and we are desperate for opportunities, we'll take it. But that's why we are doing this other side. Because if Netflix is going to take something from me, it's going to be the absolute best that this continent can offer. It's not these short stories, because these short stories are not money. That's the problem. This is token. This is not money. Short films are not money. I can tell you that as a filmmaker. We don't make money from short films. It's usually an NGO kind of, like, we are funding you, giving you grants to do this. It's not a business endeavor, and that's why I'm against it. They can do it, yes, but shouldn't be our main concern. Main concern is to let actual filmmakers just do the thing and avail the market. but they're just shutting us down in a little corner. So it's becoming more difficult, even as there's a lot of good media around it. But I've seen this happen before, and I just can't get excited about it yet.
Okay.
I need to see the money, because short films are not money. Thanks.
Understood.
Okay, wow. Strong opinion coming from Albo, and
Albo
very good.
Wagana, strong opinions all the time.
Atarudi tena, so that we can talk about
Atarudi. But then there was an interesting. I don't know whether you guys watched the video. There's a DJ from Ghana, from New York, who was being interviewed by Ose the Dark Secret, who used to be on radio out here in the DMV. And these are the guys who kind of like started that Afrobeat vibe out here in the US, and and he was saying something similar to music, to what now Albo is saying on movies, in the sense that the people who did the hard work to popularize that music here in the US, when nobody wanted to listen to it, were DJs.
Correct.
You know, like where they played it, you know, and they forced their way into Black American clubs, started playing a song or two until the music got popular here. But now, when these artists, the Burna Boys and the Davidos, became popular, and they were swept away by these big record companies, they're now bypassing all the people who
were
made it possible,
who made it possible,
in making it possible for them here. Now that whole ecosystem, because the food is not just with the artist, or it's not just with the actor, or not just with the director, it's the whole ecosystem. That's where the money is, from directors, from choreographers, and it's the same with movies. That whole ecosystem is where the money is, and I think is where Albo is saying, you know, like Netflix is now taking that ecosystem away, and they're having a say even in the content as it's supposed to be.
And it should not be that way.
And it should not be that way.
It should not be that way.
Yeah.
And I think that is why I think after at some point, if guys get a chance, just go to 3D Africa Media, just look at what they're going on, what's going on over there. And also, I'll be very honest, I was very intrigued that we haven't, personally, I can say I have not heard of anyone doing 3D, even creating movies like what these guys are doing.
Yes,
in Kenya,
amazing work
locally. And then, you know, you're having, you know, like Lady Moran, you know, now you have Luanda, you have, and it's just go. There's a site there, you can subscribe, and support is important, because you invest in, you grow, it comes up, where we tell our stories the way it is supposed to be.
Yes.
We don't let somebody else tell our stories.
Yes, don't let someone else
we
tell
our stories. Simple as that.
Yeah, just the same way like we tell our Kenyan stories, our diaspora stories the way we want every Friday when we come here.
Kabisa.
Albo, real quick, contacts, you know, like kama kuna sponsor fulani anakusikiza, si sponsor na hiyo, na sponsor meaning anaweza ku
unasema anti wa haria.
Yeah, not anti wa haria.
No, he needs anti wa haria.
Kuna mtu anaweza kwambia touch.
Oh, hata green card. Haya, mumesikia.
Yeah, he didn't even go for anti wa haria, he went direct.
He went direct, you know, like, and that's
direct.
Yes.
Hey.
So
this guy bana, si mtu kuja tu pole pole, even at least.
That's a good thing about Albo, is direct.
Bwana, hii mambo ya kudelay vitu, unasema kitu mapema so that action can be
Ajipange.
You are too old to be playing around. Gusi.
Haya, sawa, kama kuna anti wa haria who's ama hata kamsichana kaharia who's willing to offer Albo a green card, he's made himself
a space to lay his head
available
as he gets the card that's green.
Sasa basi weka tupatie contact information.
Yani Slay was just chilling.
Tupatie contact information, yeah, if anyone wants to reach you, you know, like social media handles, and the best way to reach you, Albo.
So we have, of course, we have our YouTube 3D Africa Media with a K. That's just where we put our stuff. A lot of it is not actually on there because some of it is looking for market and money somewhere. So once it's done, then it can be released. We have our website, 3dafrica.com, 3dafrica with a K also. Personally, you can reach me on Instagram, Facebook. I have my page, Albo Cinema with an S. That's on Instagram.
Albo Cinema.
Cinema, yeah, SINEMA.
Yeah.
Okay, kama vile mama wa haria. So albo
Yes.
wa cinema.
Anti wa haria.
Or anti wa haria.
Hey, get it
okay.
right, brother.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can inbox me. I check my inboxes. That's where actually social media gives me about 60% of my business. So I'm always checking my inbox if there is. But at the moment, what we are working on, if I can add this, Epic Games, they're one of they are the biggest game production company in the world. They did recognize us for Book of Car, and they did give us a small grant to build a studio here for the projects. They're intrigued by the concept of Book of Car and that world, which can also be easily translated to video games.
You guys should.
So they have, yeah. So they have started us. So whatever that we are working on next, we'll have a teaser coming out very soon. I don't want to commit on the date, but it's towards the end, the last bits. We are finishing up some environments, then we have that out. So kitu moja that I want to request, we have a website called bookofcar.com. Now, on this website, we are putting all the episodes, because we are starting first with a series to set up the world that is the Book of Car. In between there, we will do an origin story film that we will be able to bring to the theaters in the US and other places. So if you go there, you can pay anything from $1, $2. There's one episode that we've put there. So that was the beginning. So we've been slowly fundraising. So if you go there, if you feel like donating $100,000, there's a button there. If you feel like watching it, the one episode, one payment of $2, you'll be able to watch the other episodes as they come out. So you can put something in that kitty to help us on, because we use that money for actor fees, voice actors, and then time in the studio and resources, like many assets that we buy from the Epic store, the game store, to try and build those worlds. So those little expenses then help us try and move to the next step. That's not everything we're depending on, but it would be big if it's somehow the Kenyan diaspora can pick this up.
Let me
we have names, so those are the important.
No, I was gonna say Ali, Omosh, OneMic can be voice actors. Carry on, Ali.
Na utatulipa. Hizo grants 100k mmepata. Kwanza hata hii video editing ya OneMic show utatufanyia discount sasa, because it seems things are working well.
The grant wasn't much. It was enough to buy the workstations we needed to get the quality up to the standards they wanted. That was the main thing, because they're investing. We are not the only people. Worldwide, there's something called the Epic Games Grant. So they're giving a lot of artists worldwide while trying to look for the next special thing. So we are part of that pool. If we play our games right, we continue to grow with them. But the first one was first to buy workstations, at least to fike hiyo wao kidogo.
How is that car spelled? Khar?
K-A-H.
Sorry, what?
Book of Car. K-A-H.
Book of Car. bookofkah.com.
K-A-H, car.
Yeah. You guys will not be disappointed. Because of that, Lady Moran, the intro, it's free on YouTube. I mean, you can watch it on YouTube.
Your books.
But just...
Lady Moran is part of the Book of Car universe. She's part of it. But we started with her because there's a long winding story that's coming from that. So
because it's a story, you can see the action key. Like, it's awesome.
Okay.
It's awesome.
Yes. All right. And here, people are appreciating here. George Muredhi is saying, good to know the market is there. We just don't know where to go. Yeah, so the market is very hungry. And then...
Pin Book of Car.
And also, there's a market, even African kids right now are really looking for this kind of content, and they will enjoy it. And then Njeri Wamboy says, good to know there is no money on short stories, Poleni. This is tough. And then...
They are a sponsor.
Yeah, Steven JJ anasema, hii ndio Ukenya tuna need. Sio UDA, sio Azimio, sio ukabila. Maze, we can be a great country, lakini kuna ufala tu tuvuta chini. So very great comment there coming from Stephen JJ, and then
Stephen JJ alichukua simu
I don't know what was going on. Alikuwa na multitask, I think. And then Jerry Wamboya anasema the directors on the African folktales reimagined on Netflix are from Africa. And then Stephen
yes, they are. Let me just respond to that.
Yeah.
They are from Africa, but they did go for a full workshop by Netflix to be able to write the story the way the Netflix wanted. So yes, of course you have to have the legitimacy of an African director there. But I can assure you, even if you look at before, there is that workshop that they went and they were taught, and they are calling it a scripting workshop. It was that, but they are being told what Netflix wants, because I think they are looking more for diaspora and Black American and what market using that content. That's
yeah. And like, for example, just to give an example of content, Kenyan content I've watched on Netflix, there's that movie Disconnect. I like the first one, but the second one, it was okay, but I was kind of lost at some point. The first one felt somewhat authentic, like this is something that I could see happening in Kenya. But when there was an introduction of, like there was a Nigerian, there was a Tanzanian, there was some very inauthentic interaction. And that's just my perspective of the second one. So I don't know whether that has something to do with the way Netflix directs and if they're trying to, like attract so many other nationalities to watch the movie. But that's just the same, that's the same thing.
Yeah, those ones are not Netflix's decisions, though.
Okay.
Those are just films that people made with the assumption, they're assuming this is what Netflix wants.
Okay.
But if you notice, they do tend to copy a lot of Nigerian or Black American style.
Yes, that's right.
So it's not that, and the Kenyans, we are very diverse in terms of how we are. From Mababi to Washamba to there's a very deep
Slay Queens to Kienyeji's.
Yes. And you see, I feel that doesn't always come out. That's why movies like Nairobi Aflife really hit.
Yes.
Because you watch it and already see it, you can feel it. And we've struggled to hit that spot many times.
Yes, and there was also another good movie on Netflix about,
40 Sticks.
Wachana na 40 Sticks. There was another one, a political movie. There was a place called Silanga. I can't remember the name of the
series.
No, that's a series.
Oh, the
It's a series called
yes.
Country Queen.
Country Queen.
Yes.
Oh, and by the way, he does Albo. Don't forget, he does
documentary.
He what do you call it?
To reviews.
He reviews.
He reviews.
That's the word.
Okay.
Yeah, Country Queen. Yeah, 40 Sticks. Very relaxed, Albo.
Yeah.
I was looking for the word.
Country Queen, yes. Country Queen. That was, and I think people are slowly coming to realize that authentic content is what people are loving. Asante sana Albo.
Before he goes, I think we have a caller. So I don't know if this caller is good.
Okay.
No, let's just take the caller one time.
Is it the same caller?
No, see somebody different.
This one must be OneMic Rela.
No.
Let's see.
Skype. Thank you for calling OneMic Show. Hello, 0185 again. Hello.
Talk to your relative.
Your name and where you're calling from.
This is OneMic Rela.
Same caller, Pablo.
Hey, Pablo bana.
Sama boss.
Haya, Pablo tuambie sasa. Sasa hakuna siasa.
So, okay. Kuna echo.
Kuna echo.
Wewe ongea tu.
Okay. So, mi swali yangu ilikuwa kwa Albo. Kuna hii commission ilitengenezwa na kina Babu na Mwamba. Sasa hao kama creatives wana engage aje na hiyo commission, one. And then number two, I'm speaking hivyo kwa sababu mi background yangu ni ya history za intellectual property, copyright, trademark, patents. Na hiyo ndo nilikuwa nafanya wakati nilikuwa Kenya. Sasa and then amesema hao kama film makers wana object mambo ya hizo grants. But then nimesikia akisema pia yeye alipewa hizo grants. So akisema sisi anaongea on behalf of nani? And then ya tatu wakati wanapewa hizo grants, do they like execute contracts, agreements, who owns the work, like what comes to them? Kwa sababu experience yangu wakati nilikuwa nafanya hizo vitu za copyright zilikuwa most creatives they tend to give away their work bila kujua like what's the final nimepatiwa pesa na msee ndio nifanye kitu, but then what is it in it for me? And then ya mwisho kabisa, so how kama the group of filmmakers wamejiweka in an organization where like they can talk to the government, talk to big companies like akina Netflix, kwa sababu again, speaking from my experience, most people watasikizana pamoja, let's do this. Like hata musicians Kenya watasema hatachukua pesa less than 10k 20k, kama sisi tukienda MCSK, but watu wengine wanachukua, wengine wanabaki wakipiga kelele. So how kama filmmakers wamejiorganize aje like to engage na big companies kama Netflix na pia kama na kuengage na serikali? Thank you.
Albo, umepata hizo zote?
Hiyo ni mimi. Ya kwanza aliuliza gani? I can go step by step.
Ebu summarize, like
Pablo,
in less than 30 seconds.
I think the first one was about the new commission that was set up by Babu na Mwamba.
Ile akina Ziada.
Correct.
Yes.
Ile akina Ziada.
Yes,
okay.
That was the first one. And I think the second one was he talked about intellectual property, and he's talking about having not agreeing to intellectual property and getting funding, but he has received funding from the same people.
Yes.
And then after that I got lost. But let him answer the
and
first
about
two.
film. So let's go the first one. That group of people that Ababu put together just gives me a headache, to be honest. I think it showed us just how little they think of us as employers, as people who can create wealth. They think this is a hobby for popular people.
You are the last party in the conference.
Because I have never been more insulted by a government or by a politician than to place somebody who got pregnant or who got popular twerking on TikTok to basically give us a roadmap forward. I have poured 15 years of my life into this, sacrificed so much, just like many of my peers. But in the end, what they do is that they place this. There are about 3 people in that entire thing that deserve to be there. I can say Churchill, he has the work, you've seen it. Catherine Kamau, the actress, also producer, you can see her. I don't remember the other person. The rest of them are weirdos. I've never seen ever.
There's a guy, Albo, there's a guy called Shirko from Mombasa. I can speak for him because I know him. He's been producing actually in Tanzania. I
think he's the person you might be speaking about the same person, because there are about 3 people that I could count that deserve to be there based on their work. So what Obabu did, he made sexually transmitted appointments.
Oh my goodness!
I think Obabu is a disgrace. This guy is so dick driven. He can't he can't make a decision without thinking about, like, how do you put an economy worth billions in the hands of somebody like Asia? I don't know her, but I know she's not done any business in film. She's not done business in music. She's not done business in TV production. She's not done that business at all. Why is she there? It's because she gave someone a hand job. I'm disgusted by that
she's
group.
Popular.
It's good. No, she also gave someone a hand job. There are many popular people who've done things.
The comments presented by Albo do not represent.
That's my opinion.
They are Albos and Balbo.
Those are his and his alone.
That's my opinion. This is not why Mike show opinion. This is my opinion as somebody who's seen it happen here. And I can tell you, nothing will be achieved by this group other than a number of events that will make a few people rich. That's it. You watch and see. On the intellectual property ownership, a lot of grants that are given do not ask for ownership of intellectual property. often the signs of a bad grant preposition is that they want to own intellectual property, the rights to it, whatever it is. So there are some who've fallen into those traps, but generally speaking, people give us grants. Like Epic Games didn't even want to know what we are going to do. They just want it done on the Unreal Engine. They didn't even want to have any say on the creative direction or anything. They just want to look. They are giving you as much freedom as possible. Maybe you come up with something great. But if I have to piggyback on that to the next, we have a lot of film organizations, producers guilds, actors guilds, but by and large, they are briefcase organizations. We don't have an industry that's sufficiently rewarding for this. Let me call for these organizations to be impactful. A lot of people are juakali in this industry. They are independents, so to speak. Even if you're under a group of whatever cinematographers or whatever it is, there's no real engagement with policy and whatnot. It's kind of an afterthought kind of gathering together of people doing similar things, but they'll give you their breakdowns, we'll do this, this and that, but it's not impactful. If you want a big deal with Netflix, you just go and negotiate your deal with Netflix. There's no organization that's backing you. There's maybe the Kenya Film Commission. They have gotten a bit busier in that front, but they're also staffed by a lot of people who don't know what they're doing. So don't expect that to be the savior. I think the savior is independent producers going there, creating the art, going out there to the market and reaching people directly. You know, if you are here on OneMic show, if I say something, 10 people hear it, they move it on. So things like that is what going to change the situation. But I know I sound a bit nihilistic, but I'm just a realist. I know what's on the ground here. Those organizations, I am a member of 3. I've never gotten anything out of it. The 15 years I'm working here. So all the work and everything is on independence and to build. That's the way music started here. For it to give so much people so much leeway. Film, we've had start and stop so much because we're depending so much on government to give grants or whatnot. So and you know how the government is. Once the Film Commission was found to be a cash cow, now we have all types of political operatives. So the thing has gone to hell. The grants are never fair. Filmmakers are not getting them. So we can't depend on that because you know what it is. We depend on people to create products that you would be willing to pay to sustain. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Asante sana Albo. Wow. You know, like that ended up being a social segment on its own.
Albo,
It is,
I
actually.
swear. We can't have him on the show again. Yani, amekuja hapa.
He's taken over the show.
No, unajua watu wanaweza kuja hapa na nini? Wakahepa show.
Hapana, hawezi hepa show. I think kuna realism ya Albo that you know, maybe some people may not like, but I think it's also sometimes very, very important.
He's a communist in Kenya, man.
You know, because even when you talk about like here DJ Tuche is saying, I know how Albo feels. Working for years and having expertise, then some novice comes and is given favors. It sucks.
Correct.
You know, and that she was given a favor because of her popularity on either Instagram and TikTok. That's the only reason
or
why she
other,
was given.
as Albo puts it.
You know, those others is on Albo. Is here to do. We have no way of independently verifying those claims. but
if you had that opportunity
I cannot also independently verify, but I'm looking at trends here. I'm looking at somebody's character and what they've done before. So
okay, all right, okay, yeah. But again, you know, like that will be, you know, like remember to visit 3dafricawithak.com to see some of their work. Again, Albo, asante sana, and we are now gonna come to wrap up. Now, before we wrap up real quick, we had mentioned that there were some cities that the Kenyan embassy is going to. Just want to remind, you know, like those
Remind Slay.
those who joined in late, and this was following public pressure by diaspora Kenyans. The Kenyan embassy in the US has started offering mobile consular services. In an exercise that kicked off yesterday, the 30th of March, the mobile unit is scheduled to be in various cities across the US as follows. Please pay attention. From March 30th to April 1st, they'll be in Chicago. That's currently speaking. They're in Chicago and Seattle, Washington. And then from April 3rd to the 5th, they'll be in Columbus, Ohio and Minneapolis, Minnesota. From April 7th to 9th, they will be in Atlanta, Georgia and Des Moines, Iowa. And then from April 11th to the 13th, they will be in Orlando, Florida and Kansas City. And then from April 25th to, from April 15th to the 17th, they will be in Phoenix, Arizona. And then from April 19th to the 21st, they will be in Kenya's capital in the US, Dallas, Texas. For details on registration, venues, and timing, please visit kenyaembassydc.org. They have, like a very elaborate list there of where you need to go. And please note that registration is required and walk-ins will not be accepted. So again, go back to kenyaembassydc.org to find I don't know whether the registration is still
Kenyans.
open.
You know Kenyans.
Yeah, they'll show up. I know Kenyans will show up.
Registration or not.
Yeah.
They'll show up. Yes.
Yeah. So if your city is missing here, make a point of going to the closest city to you and just make sure, when the next time comes, you get your voice heard so that they can come to your city. I'm talking to people in Houston. Interestingly enough, I also did not see Boston on this list. But I think Boston is because they're close to New York. So maybe that's the reason why they're not here.
At this point. But they have had, they've gone to cities like Boston before.
Yes.
So I'm sure at this point, it seems like to me, like they're trying to touch places that they've not gone to before and
that have been untouched.
And or do not have anything very close. Because they've gone to Dallas before. So
yes.
Again, hopefully this is going to be a better
But that's
showing.
like the Capiro. That's the Capiro.
I hope this is a better showing than the one they had last time because folks were saying it was not the best, and I'm not sure if it was.
Is it the best because of?
I think it was
too many people or plan.
I think planning.
There
was some disorganized. Yeah. There was some a little bit of disorganization.
I mean, it was a fuss, so we're gonna give them a pass.
So, but again, if you don't register, don't expect to get service.
Yes.
That's the key to it. Go to the website, see what they require, register, and then make sure you get yourself hapo. I probably would carry my patience if I'm the one who's going over there as well, because even after you do all of that, it's probably at some point going to be a fast come, fast serve. I don't think they have it. You'll be seen at this time or you'll be seen at this time. I think it's basically, you come in, at least your name is there, and they'll sort you out based upon the way you arrive.
Yeah, and get your documents together.
I mean, that was our experience kind of like when we went to vote and to register. It was more or less, I think they'll probably use the same, setup type thing.
Yeah. And I think this becomes, like a challenge for IBC, look at what the embassy is doing and don't come back with that stuff that you cannot do this outside an
Kenyan soil.
The embassy itself.
No, they are the IBC guys are so rigid because we saw how old was this lady? Is she 80? We saw, I think she's about 80, being turned away.
Yeah, that's very painful.
Like being turned away, and because she was registered to vote, I think, in Kenya. Yeah. And I think either she had not changed her polling station or she changed her polling station, but there was a document she hadn't carried. Oh, her Kenyan passport. She didn't have a Kenyan passport. I think that's what it was. Or she forgot it. But they could verify, they could see that it's her because they had her ID, and then they have the voter rolls, so they can check the voter rolls. So she is registered, but they would not let her vote because she did not carry, I think it was her, she forgot her passport, I think. They would not let her vote.
Yeah.
Yet they can check the rolls. So then, and that's something that should be at the discretion of the officer, whoever is there. And it was sad.
But I think also, I think the issue also sometimes becomes what you could say discretion, but what does I'm gonna use the word law provide. What
I don't think there's any law.
There's no
per
law.
se.
You know, we've
I don't
already
think
established
I don't think
that.
there's any law per se because this
Because
goes,
it's
Oh
only
no,
if
oh,
it's-
no, we've already established that. There's no law.
this goes back to that
And if
whole
there's
thing.
one, you know,
want
like,
to see it. We want to
yes,
see it.
it's
No,
not
because-
there.
And it
It's
can be
not there.
challenged because if I can verify you on the voter roll and I'm the person who's checking the voter roll, then I let you go vote. Because it's not like this is not Omosh who's registered at this place and they're not showing up. They're
Because your
showing up.
fingerprints are this. Your fingerprints it is.
Bas. Now
That is
remember,
it.
they also verify you because when you register, you have to do your stuff, right?
Right.
Biometrics. You can check those. Ziko hapo.
Yeah.
Sasa,
So
issue
there's
iko
no
wapi?
law.
Because
There was
siku-
just no goodwill.
because I did not remove.
Because on the issue
original
of
document.
using IDs, that's what they kept saying. It's a law. You know, like what law? Okiya Omtata took them to court and that thing was thrown out. And that thing threw off a lot of people who are planning to register, but they did not have a passport. They had an ID, but a lot of people even did not get that
they had been
information.
thrown off already.
They'd already
so,
been thrown
so
off.
they didn't come.
And the window was very small. So there was a lot of disenfranchisement. Now, at our YouTube, we apologize. You know, we need to do a better job with YouTube. You know, because there was a lot of, you know, like chat on YouTube. Afro-Jamaican, you know, in fact, Afro-Jamaican has some very good messages. Afro-Jamaican is one of our very faithful Jamaican listener who listens from Canada. He has investments in Kenya. In fact, Afro-Jamaican is one of the interesting people that I think we would need to...
We need to bring him on the show.
We need to bring him on the show. You know, he has very interesting
For
perspectives
Jamaican,
on
I hope you've
Kenyans.
had that.
Yeah, he has so much hope with Kenya, more than a lot of Kenyans have.
Ali,
which is so amazing.
I met people in Kenya this time in December. I never told you guys this, you know, just going off. But there were two Jamaican guys who I met who had come as an investment trio. One of them runs a restaurant / catering business in Brooklyn. And the other guy, he basically does investments and he's been investing in Kenya. This guy who has been invested in Kenya had come back and brought his friend. Now, he had stayed in Kisumu for a year.
Wow.
Running a kuku business.
That is so interesting.
And this kuku business, his whole thing was to try to lower the numbers because the biggest amount, the largest amount of money you spent running this business was in feed.
Wow.
So he developed his own feed. Alikuwa anajitengenezea chakula yake. So he wasn't going to buy anymore. He was, I don't even raising worms and all that type
So
of
a
stuff.
Jamaican who picked Kisumu.
He went
Not
to
even
Kisumu.
Nairobi.
No.
Not
he went
Mombasa.
to Kisumu. He rented a space and he was rearing chickens for a year. And he said
that's
he,
amazing.
he turned it down to the point where it was 40% from wherever it was. So whatever that now, he brought it down so much that he was now making money. And he did it as a concept just to see, okay, well, if everybody's saying that feed is the big issue, so then what is it that let me try to get my own feed as opposed to going out to buy.
Yeah.
And he was now growing his own feed for the cuckoos.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
like worms and stuff like that and all those.
For Jamaican.
So,
yeah,
you
brethren.
know, and so there's a lot of, I guess I would say, non-Kenyans or who are, I guess, from our perspective, we would call what we're diaspora, who are coming back and investing in Kenya and or doing business and running small little businesses,
Yes.
which may not necessarily be the $10 million, dollar business or $1 million business, but they're making decent money in Kenya. And I even have one of my relas who went to your old school, St. Mary's, who took a group of investors, about 10. And this is like the third time I think this was the second or third trip, Amanda Nawatu. And when they go with this investment trips or people who are Americans, by the way, African Americans, they go, they meet the Chamber of Commerce people, they're taken around to different places, shown different so-called opportunities, and then depending upon Sasa where one, is moved, whether they want to invest in, I don't know, whether it's, biofeed or whatever the heck it is that they're trying to invest in. But there's a lot of Kenyans who are recognizing that we can't sit and wait for Gava to do this. We're going to have to bring in our own investors and take them to our counties, whether it's Mashenani, whether it's Hapo, Nairobi, or whatever, and put them in touch with the right people and set these guys up so that it's not like kitu ya toa kitu kidogo. No, these guys are coming in. They have disposable income. Maybe someone has $100,000, that they're holding on to, or $150,000, and they want to invest in something. Start a business. And some of them are even, quote unquote, willing to move.
Okay.
Kenya. So, just to let you guys know, there's a lot of people who are actually now realizing and recognizing that, let me use my influences here and my friends and my group or my circle of friends, people who are at the same level as me, whether it's professionally or whatever, in my investment clubs here or whatever the case is, they want to invest in Africa. They want to travel in Africa.
Absolutely.
And they're going.
We just
All
have to
right.
make sure that the environment is conducive.
Correct.
Yes.
That's what happens.
Afro-Jamaican, Neo Generational, and Pablo. That's Pablo also. They're all on YouTube here. We're going to do a better job with YouTube. 100%. And we also have Tyrone Motif. Thank you so much. And Afro-Jamaican says, I am not giving up. I am keeping the faith. Afro-Jamaican, I promise you, we're going to get in touch and we are going to get you right here on the OneMic show to give your perspective as a foreign investor in Kenya. Because a lot of times when people hear foreign investor, their expectation is
a white guy.
Some white guy with blue eyes.
Yes. So we like this this trendsetter who are breaking these stereotypes and like giving us even more hope and faith within our spaces. If he's white.
It's all good. It's all
Bienvenue.
good.
Welcome.
It's all good. The whole point of it is there's people out there who are willing.
And then Afro-Jamaican, you also need to take us to Jamaica. Maybe one day we are going to do a live show.
Yeah, brethren,
from Kingston.
We might be saying all this, and yet he's probably just a guy from West Side.
Who's kind of a label with a flag. It's okay. We'll switch it.
Yeah.
We'll make him speak patois.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yes. Yeah. We should go do a show from Kingston or one of those.
Kingston, Jamaica.
You guys, you go to Kingston on your own. Me, I've been to Jamaica twice. I am not going to Kingston. Nimuende.
Mini sawa. To me, kwanza, I want to go where the people are.
Nenda paliwatu wako.
I don't want to go. I don't want to go to the resorts like in a you at SG.
Boss,
you're there.
We didn't have to go
drinking margaritas. No, me, I want to go.
You
where
go
the
to
resorts of
Kingston.
Akina Slay.
Go Kingston.
Akina maybe Tucha.
Go Kingston. I'm telling you, some of us, we learned. It's interesting that you talk about Kingston. Even Jamaicans themselves don't go to Kingston unless they have to go. That's how bad Kingston is. Don't let it be an election year.
But you see, the good thing
is
I'm gonna go with a Jamaican, like Afro-Jamaican, and he's gonna show me the right places to go.
If they're not from Kingston, do not go with them. I can tell you that for free. I'm just telling you for free.
But
And
just tell them you just come from Kenya and Kenyatta was
Gaza, no Gully side.
Bruh, let me tell you, if they are not from Kingston, do not attempt to go with them to Kingston.
I will speak Sheng and Kikuyu.
They don't care. At that point, they don't care. At that point, they don't care. They're like, oh, you brought yourself. Come hither.
Now you know we're supposed to touch on
you guys through
Trump.
the show off. Through the show off,
to touch on
Trump. We're gonna be with Trump.
Lock him up, Akwende.
Yeah, we're gonna be with him for the next year and a half or 2 years.
You say he's gonna be locked up for how
coming
long?
Up.
Yeah.
I don't think he's gonna be locked up. I don't think America will let that happen. But I also think that
we didn't think we'd get here.
Publicity with this case is gonna give him more traction. Unfortunately,
I think not.
That's just how broken our political system is.
I think not.
No,
I don't think so.
His ratings have started going up.
With which demographic?
Of course, amongst Republicans.
Which demographic?
Independence of
demographic?
You see, the
independents are
and
tired.
who are they polling? Those polls.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something.
Tell me.
Kunywa maji. Let me drink water.
Give him another bottle.
Jesus.
What I was gonna say is, I'm not gonna be shocked by who's supporting Trump.
Okay.
Because there's been that assumption that it's a white guy who looks a certain way.
No.
To me, that's why, and I'm never gonna take him for granted. Like I did in 2016.
Yeah, the first time, yes.
And we should not do it. We should not sit here.
Absolutely not.
Because there's also a lot of people who are disgruntled by where the economy is going.
True.
Correct.
And everything.
And they're blaming.
And they might be willing to forgive Trump's indiscretions.
Thinking he's gonna fix
And
what he
that
never.
is- and
What
that
he
is-
thinking he'll fix what he never fixed.
And
then.
that is why I'm loving the way I'm going to use the word progressive Democrats are going at the jugular, pound for pound, jab for jab. because they're those guys. And then also don't forget they're independents. So even them independents, the one who sit on the fence, are objectively looking at this because, case in point, there's an idiot who was being, I think it is Biggs, who had come on C-SPAN, and every caller, well, most of the callers were independent, and they were going ham at him. Him supporting the insurrection, him supporting Trump, and Trump supporting insurrection and stuff like that. At one point when it was even being checked, talking about nobody has ever been career charged with seditious something. There's a term that they were used, for the and only for the host to say, by the way, just to let you know, there was somebody who was charged with seditious something.
Is it publication?
Huh?
Can't be publications. I don't think.
No. Seditious something. When you're being charged because of January 6th. But what I'm saying is, what's happening is there's an awakening that's going on, and people are really getting tired. In as much as Republicans or Republicans are running Congress and they're having hearings, and every moment you turn on, it is them getting butchered. At some point, the story and the narrative is going to stick. But yes, I'm in agreement with Ali. Do not take this other side.
You can't take it for granted.
Absolutely not.
And the Dems should not fall asleep.
But I think the worst
they have to be made up.
If there's any time that they need to really be on top of their game, make sure people are voting, and make sure these young kids who have voter apathy, because we have a whole slew of new voters who are coming in for the next elections, midterms and all sorts of things. You know what I'm saying? You need to make sure that these people are in here, that they're here, they're voting, they're registered, and they know that they need to go vote to make a difference. Because if they don't vote, guess what?
Currently,
it's gonna go south.
The independents and young progressive Dems, those are the houses, and
they need to vote.
But by the same token,
kina your nephew.
Kuna the guys on the other side whose
they also
indoctrination,
they have their own indoctrination on the other side.
Or the indoctrination going on the other side, wakomaido.
Yeah, but remember, the worst case scenario for Republicans, in my opinion, is if Trump does not win the Republican ticket, because I think he will still run, whether he wins that ticket or not.
He's going to win the ticket.
So he'll split it.
He will win the ticket.
No, at this point,
bro,
there's no guarantee.
Listen, even after the indictment.
But I'm just saying, in case he doesn't win,
Ron De Sanctimonious, aka Ron De Satan. Somebody called him Ron De Satan, Ron De something. Nikki Haley.
But
because
I'm
so far
saying,
they're like two.
But listen to my thinking here. I'm just saying, in case he doesn't win, because these primaries and
the Republican,
these primaries and caucuses,
he's the leading Republican candidate for sure.
These primaries and caucuses, there's no 100%. These primaries and caucuses
for now
can be these primaries and caucuses. Actually, DeSantis has been ahead of him for a while. This case is what has brought his polls up. But what I'm saying, I want you to pay attention to this, because I think these absolute statements are what got us, into the predicament we got in 2016. So right now, if there's also an insurrection within the Republican Party, there's a whole host of people who do not want Trump because they feel that he cannot beat Biden.
That works.
So just in case
I see where he does not,
just in case he does not win, he's gonna run as a third candidate. And him running as a third candidate
splits the vote.
That not only splits the vote, it becomes dangerous. You know why? Because when you have three candidates, it means that there's a very high possibility that no one will reach the 269 number required to win the presidency. Is it 270? Yeah. The 270 number required to win the presidency. And you know what happens when no one reaches 270? America hakuna runoff. Have you ever heard of a runoff? No. You know what happens? The vote goes to the House. And guess who controls the House?
The Republicans.
The Republicans. Now, I believe, what's going to happen, it's a new House that's going to be, so it will depend on the composition of the House that has been elected in. And then, that vote is not one man or one woman, one vote. It's by state delegation, meaning Texas votes as a block, Maryland votes as a block, and like Vermont votes as a block. Each of them has one vote. And right now as we speak, how many delegations the Republicans, or rather, how many delegations
More than the Dems.
the Republicans and the Dems control?
More
Can
than
can anyone guess the numbers?
No.
Just
I
any
will not
guess.
even guess.
No, just any guess. There are 50 states. Make a guess. And anyone who's listening,
I think I'd
think
say
make a
I think
guess.
I'd say 30,
30.
20, and I give it to the Dems.
so it's
To the Republicans.
it's to the
Republicans
Republicans. It's not to the Dems.
Red states
Okay.
are more than
It's
Dems,
to the
blue
Republicans.
states.
No, but then if we're looking at the voting, the way they voted, even the states
No.
that were red, they voted.
No,
differently.
but we are
no,
looking.
Oh, we're talking about
No,
We're
we
talking
are-
about a state.
We are looking at a
Okay.
state.
Okay.
You see,
not at
you see like
pockets.
you see like
Got it, got
California,
it.
for example, has 55 representatives.
Yes.
Who's the majority of those 55? So that's what we're looking at. I mean, of course, in California, it's Democrats. So when you look at who's the majority in those 50 states,
But then when they're doing what is it called? The what's that thing that the one they at the party when they vote?
what do you
But
mean?
The number that you just said.
No, they,
Forget
no,
that,
no, no,
the-
no,
no.
We're
So
talking
so
about
Texas,
nominations for
Texas goes.
Yeah.
Texas, the representatives in Texas, they go as one group. They
Or
do
they go
their
as one
own.
group. They do it internally. Then they
do
come with one
internally.
vote.
Then they come up with one vote. The majority.
Okay, understood.
The majority.
Understood.
So that's what might happen. I don't know whether this has ever happened in American history.
I don't think it has.
But that's the
right?
rule. That's what's going to happen if no one reaches, like 270.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So it's going to go to the House. Currently, Republicans control 27.
Okay.
Democrats control, I think, 20 or 21. And there's some 2 or 3 states that are 50-50.
That can go either way.
Yeah, those can go either way.
Okay.
Those can go either way.
But if we're
So-
at 50, how are we 2027? That's 47.
No, that's right. 27. Yeah, 50.
43. Okay, 3.
Yeah.
3.
Yeah,
3.
so that's why I'm saying this, like people are taking this for granted.
Elections
election-
have consequences.
Yes, this election could go back to the House. And I think this is civic education that people need to understand now, to understand even the people they elect in Congress could be the determinant of whether Trump is the next president or not. Because once it goes to Congress, there's no, it's whoever the delegation votes for.
Understood.
It's whoever the delegation votes for. So that's where people need to be very careful, because things can go south pretty fast. Mike.
Wahenga walinena kilicho na mwanzo hakina budi kuwa na mwisho. Meli imetia nanga. Daddy's about to go and buy us ngoks. We are about to wrap this puppy up. Kadhe. Togende.
Thanks to my fans. It's been another show that we didn't see coming. Sijui hata yani kusema kweli. What happened to the show? Anyway,
I don't know.
Movie Albo. Na ukate hii show vizuri. That's all I can tell you at this point.
Abwasha bounce.
No, see, he's gonna go back and nini.
Yes.
He'll hear me.
And manages my challenges.
Yes, he's gonna hear me talking about akate show vizuri. And thanks for waking up and going through and sitting, sitting through this entire show with us. Hapo umecheza kama wewe. A big shout out to Bandit, our super producer who made this possible, and always throws in a loose gadget here and there that makes our show keep getting better. To my fans on YouTube, we apologize, and we're going to do a better job of making sure that you guys are repped and your comments are being read, and that we are keeping up with you. To all my fans out there, asanteni, and we will see you guys next week.
With a chamber?
Kama kazi. What chamber are we talking about?
Sorry.
We'll see you guys next week, kama kazi. And other than that, tuendele na hiyo ngox akuna. Asanteni.
Okay, all right. So our super producer, was checking facts while we're having a conversation. I wasn't sure whether that situation of
Your number.
of the house picking a president has ever happened before. And Mubelwa checked. He's saying in 1824, Andrew Jackson of Tennessee won a plurality of the national popular vote and 99 votes in the electoral college, 32 short of a majority. John Quincy Adams was runner-up with 85, and Treasury Secretary William Crawford had 41. So 3 candidates. So that increases the possibility of someone not reaching the half-point mark. And then Mubelwa continues to say John Adams alichaguliwa kwa rais licha ya kwamba hakushinda popular ama electoral college vote. You see, the results were Andrew Jackson of Tennessee, 99 electoral college votes, John Quincy Adams, 85, and Treasury Secretary William Crawford, 41. So there was no, runoff election. It goes straight back to the House of Representatives. And Bandio Father says... Is that
still the rule?
Yes, that's still the rule.
Okay.
In the election of 1824, the U.S. House won, I think this is the same, U.S. House of Representatives.
They voted.
Oh, yeah. So he says in 1824, the U.S. House of Representatives votes to elect John Quincy Adams, who won fewer votes than Andrew Jackson. In the popular election as the president of the U.S., Adams was the son of John Adams, second president of the United States. So unaona pia kulikuwa na nepotism in the US back in those days. But here's the interesting thing. This is the person who won, neither won the electoral college vote nor the popular vote, but the House still went and voted for him. So Trump does not need to win the popular. People were mad that he won without winning the popular vote. People are gonna even be extra mad when he goes back and wins without winning the popular vote and without winning the electoral college vote.
That's why a vote counts. Go out and vote.
So
and make sure you drag those toys with you to go vote. Hakuna kitu kama ati sijui it's their rights sijui nini. Kwanza nyinyi watu wanasikiza hapa show. Nyinyi ndio vote kwa ile blue. Make sure you represent.
Hapa Drukimani anasema half of those baby boomers that supported Trump were wiped out by COVID. It will be hard for the evangelicals to support him after Stormy. Dems just need a young, exciting candidate. Where people are savage.
Drew has come out swinging.
People are savage. People are savage. I mean, it's a factual statement, but it's also very savage.
I don't.
Wow, I want to thank Drew Kimani, Slay, Tucha, Sambaza, Washeke, and everybody else who was tuned in. Watu hapa YouTube, Afro-Jamaican, we are going to teach you Swahili. You're going to start speaking Swahili, very soon. We're going to teach you, and Swahili is going to be your new lingua franca. Pablo Asante Sana, Nia Generational, another loyal viewer on YouTube. We thank you so much. And of course, to Albo Asante Sana for giving us a perspective from Kenya. Hopefully things are gonna turn out well. Now, kwa yeyote ambaye anataka kunipigia simu, nambari yangu bado ni ile 1-800 mteule. Na operator akishika simu, mwambie unataka kusema na mjukuu. Na akikuuliza ni mjukuu yupi, mkumbushe ni mjukuu yule wa Masai. Because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui, na sibagui. Kwaherini.
Aiden, once again, happy 17th. Daddy loves you. Jerry, Daddy loves you. Nemo, Daddy loves you. Until next week, be blessed. DJ Machachari Buda Boss Kade. Na tunaenda kula kuku.
DJ Joe.
Black Market Records.
Bariki na bariki mzinga kimoyo moyo kakabi na si wa Jesus napitalika sto before niingie club na wapi manisha na bia zangu zishashika ule wita na jomi sinanga dabu na moja tuendanisha home form inaweza jipa leo sinite zadi leo niite pwago masomo nazipiga kwa tako hadi saa 6 kamshoroge kanapenda kamnywe soka demsi umroge akikuonyesha mateso kwetu pombe wanadeliva na benzo kwenyu pombe uletwa na mkoke benzo demako limo sana tangu mweke aggravate siyo kwenye matangu katiwe internet demako limo sana tangu mweke aggravate siyo kwenye matangu katiwe internet
Bakoba, fuck up. Pombe yangu ndo ucheze ida ni fuck. Stula inachacha kwa zigi action pack. Gana shang, mi bado hustler. Mzinga 10 neza fan shukuru customer. Uliza custody, purura chachola. Botolo inadonjadi niko stuck kwa ba. Ban kuban, hii maisha iron fast.
Napiga wera hii design waichopa nifike Meru na Probox juu ya Java tena nifike Ethiopia juu ya Shada na siku man kuanga pedi nina ndenga na deni kule madha kule bila pressure na deni pande bei ni riedange vera side kudungi wanga tenje kasi pesa juu kiukadi nali hii ni extra pressure
Kill every rhythm of the worker put in maximum amount of work the rise up all of you to the dirt black royalty celeste come first we go work Kill every rhythm of the worker put in maximum amount of work the rise up all of you to the dirt black royalty celeste come first we go
Junikomboka Nadekomoka Junikomboka Komoka Junikomboka Nadekomoka Junikomboka Nadekomoka
365 me tape and work man a soldier black royalty like a lanchi taking over kill him with the vibe gang Tomoka fire bun every rhythm now come in and kill the thing you know me full of stamina pull up and let them know me come fi take over keep rising up on the youth now money up in your rise up the top
Mungu kibariki bariki chokora Mungu kiinua inua chokora Mungu kibariki bariki chokora Mungu kiinua inua chokora Baada ya dhiki najua ni faraja na ipo siku moja nitafanikiwa Baada ya dhiki utapata faraja kama mimi nilibarikiwa hata wewe utabarikiwa Okota mapipani gunia mgongoni kulala mitaroni Mungu nikumbuke Alikujua wewe kabla uwe tumboni mwa mama yako na ulipofika hapa jua na mpango wako Mungu kibariki bariki chokora Mungu kiinua inua chokora Mungu kibariki bariki chokora Mungu kiinua inua chokora Machozi minalia mimi nikikumbuka jinsi chokora wanavyodhulumiwa Machozi minalia mimi nikikumbuka jinsi chokora wanavyodhulumiwa Machozi ya furaha minalia nikikumbuka vile huyo Mungu alinitendea nawe pia furaha atakupatia hata kukumbuka ukimuamini utainuka Pia mimi ninaomba unikumbuke Pia mimi ninaomba unikumbuke Pia mimi
bazenga kona kipara mwenye na mbaka na chapa inalala akipewa guava na dunga kiukamba dimsupo kinipea naichapa na finyo naichapa na finyo tako bila dera naichapa na finyo naichapa na finyo msupo kinipea naichapa na finyo naichapa na finyo kafundi na ripea naichapa na finyo naichapa na finyo
miupenda nikizichapa na finyo kaunita master nimeivia nginyo bado napenda kakibons tu na finyo juka kipita nafikiria mbinyo kaupenda nikianza kukashikashika jeki brown skin painting amededi ya dhegi kausema kaupenda kuni ona kwa daily
kimsatu kwa dipu umefikia beli
sili buda siringi kama kipangi nimewashika akili wananipenda na hata sina shilingi nipate tukadela nimeshukisha wawili
bado msupo kinipea naichapa na finyo naichapa na finyo tako bila dera naichapa na finyo naichapa na finyo msupo kinipea naichapa na finyo naichapa na finyo kafundi na ripea naichapa na finyo naichapa na finyo
tuko ma area na mdenga kondete amesea kavyo ni kirungu
Sexy on the beat.
Stingo za wanyama utatua mindo papa na nguvu ni ya wakanda stingo za wanyama
bado msupo kinipea naichapa na finyo naichapa na finyo tako bila dera naichapa na finyo naichapa na finyo msupo kinipea naichapa na finyo naichapa na finyo kafundi na ripea naichapa na finyo naichapa na finyo nasoroboka na nyonyo na inzegi kwa dau yopenda rumbu tungu yani mista kama uhaha kwa dau na siku jichocha na kinyanyau nyama kwa nyamaru yenye skipu ya nyagu cheki shanishikaga mkono ashadai ya norangi ngweka rombo kwanza kwa mdomo pitisha bojongo aiskizi ya mkonyo napenda mjedeli anataka kitu nono nana nachapisha maduru ya kidelisha kinyambi ngite kiwa gido kunyi ya sugar mami mama jambi lale na haba hujazaga kibaba mama natakanga bazenga kona kipara mwenye na mbaka na chapa inalala akipewa guava na dunga kiukamba dumsupo kinipea naichapa na finyo naichapa na finyo tako bila dera